Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, allegedly. I'm Smart.
Happy Monday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie. Happy gay summer, Mel.
Happy Hump Day, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm not humping anybody. I'm Rebecca Lavoie.
Happy Saturday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
Oh, no.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and my mic is muted.
Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and that's Briscoe.
And welcome to Something's Off, a true crime podcast where we swat the haters aside with our astute takes and humor and joy. And
the joylessness
I don't
of
give
those
a fucking
people.
miss. Blah.
Hags.
You hear it first in the break in the story. One little crack and the whole thing gets wary. A witness swears but the timeline bends. A smile too smooth and the trail just ends. Mel Barrett says, hold up, look again. Rebecca Lavoie follows every thread. If it feels too neat, then it's not the truth. There's a shadow line running through the room. Something's off, something's off. You can feel it in the bones. Something's off, something's off. When the facts won't come home. Something's off, something's off. And the case won't stay in place. Something's off. We're the ones who chase.
We're gonna go members only.
Yeah, we're the ones who chase. Wait, did that witness just blink 3 times? Something's off. Something's off.
Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett, which you already know because you watched the intro. I am back from the woods of New Hampshire, and I'm back in the pod. Rebecca can't be with me this morning because she is still having immense back pain, and she's going to get that checked out. So for all of you who think that I am nuts and can't see clearly and don't want to be here, now's your chance to exit. We will be missing Rebecca's very balanced, calm approach to trials and cases, and you're stuck with me this morning. So I hope that's okay with everybody that's here. If you don't like it, you're welcome to come back tonight at 6 p.m. when Rebecca and I are going to be doing our cross roast. And let me just tell you what's on the table tonight. So this is for members only. We couldn't do our cross roast on Monday night because we were both at separate trials in New England. Rebecca was at the Turtle Boy trial, or hearing, I should say, motion to dismiss. And I was at the Pamela Smart motion to dismiss her habeas petition in New Hampshire. And we didn't get to do cross roast. I tried to join Rebecca for a stream from my cabin in the woods, but my Wi-Fi was not cooperating, so I had to jump off. Rebecca had a great show by herself. I just love her and I miss her. And she does calm me down quite a bit. We argue, we debate. I'll say we debate. I have a tendency to be more emotional and hot-headed about the justice system, and Rebecca has seen it and done it and been around, and she's written many books about it. So she's just like, yeah, this is what judges do. Sometimes they're assholes and we just have to deal with it. And I get enraged. So that's basically our dynamic. And I miss her. I miss her when she's not here, but I'm glad to be here with y'all. Let me check this chat here real quick. It's moving fast already. Jeez, you guys. Hey, Ben Burnett. Less than an hour until the ladies take the stage. This presentation will be epic. Well, it's just one lady today. It's just me, but hopefully it'll be epic. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Simna says, yeah, please hit the like button on your way in. We got a boost in the past couple of days. I think it's probably because Rebecca did that amazing interview with Betterow and Bradle and Turtle Boy outside of the courthouse on Monday. I mean, you really got to see like her journalistic chops, which I appreciate. I was very proud of her. The video's great. Sound was great. The videos had like almost 30,000 hits on it, which is awesome. And it just shows like what a professional Rebecca is. So, but because of that, I'm pretty sure because of that video, we got an extra, like, I don't know, few hundred subs. So we're pushing close to 11,000 right now. I don't know why those numbers are important to me, but they are. I love it. I like the numbers. I like to see you all here. I like to be able to spend time with you and share the thoughts and opinions about these court cases that we cover. I'm going to be sort of jumping around a little bit today. If anyone is interested in my thoughts about Pam's hearing, I'm happy to give it. If you don't want to hear it, that's fine too. Just let me know. But I also want to talk about the Lindsay Clancy case. And I think I started this conversation with you talking about tonight's cross roast. So we missed our Monday night cross roast because of my Wi-Fi issues and because we were just in court all day. So we're doing it tonight. We're doing it at 6 p.m. If you haven't been a part of one of our cross roasts, you're missing out. Please become a member. Come join us. Tonight, I'm going to put Rebecca in the hot seat and make her sit through either Julie Albert, Chris Albert, or I guess it's not an either. It's one of these three Courtney Proctor's MSP interrogation videos. I'm sure many of you have seen the videos. I'm sure you've been watching on Melanie Little's channel and Sam Beningo's channel and Turtle Boy's channel. These interviews are wild. They're wild, but I'm going to try to make her uncomfortable. It won't be hard because they're all so cringy. And I'm not an expert, but I think they're all lying. I think Courtney might be the one that's telling the most truth, but the other two, Chris and Julie, in my opinion, they don't appear to be truthful in their interviews with the Massachusetts State Police, especially Julie. We are also going to be talking in depth about Julie's interviews, I should say. There were 3 of them, I believe, on Thursday morning. At least I think it's going to be morning for right now. That's what we've scheduled it for. But if that changes, we'll let you know. So it's going to be a packed few days coming up here, and I hope you'll stick around with us. Please become a member. Send over a tip if you feel like it. You know, we definitely self-funded our trips this week, and the gas money that y'all sent us and the coffee money that you sent me was very helpful. They were a busy few days. Lindsay and I drove back yesterday, and it was a good 10-hour drive. So we did 20 hours of driving over the course of 4 days. And it was nice. I got to see my family. Some of you may not know, but my grandmother and my biological mother passed away within a week of one another at the beginning of the year. And though I was no contact with my own mother, I was very much in contact with my grandmother, who I think of as my mother. And I was, she was 94. Well, here's the interesting thing. I didn't plan this, obviously, because I was coming into New Hampshire for the hearing for Pam Smart, which happened on Monday. But on Sunday was July 19th, which was my grandmother's birthday. And so my cousins all came to my cabin, and one of my cousins brought my grandmother's urn, and we had a little birthday celebration for Nan, and she would have turned 94 on Sunday. So it was really nice. It was great to see my cousins. We do a lot of laughing when we're together. So it was nice. Had a little campfire, made some s'mores, told good stories about Nan, and I was able to finally say goodbye because I wasn't able to. I was planning to go up. I got the word that she wasn't doing well, and so I was planning my travel, and sadly she passed away before I could get there. And I have been really sad about that, but I got a chance to say goodbye to her this weekend, so that was really nice. It was a good 4 days. And if you live in a place, usually it's major cities, they used to be called getaway cabins. I'm sure you've seen the pictures with like the big picture window that looks out into the woods or whatever the scenery might be. We've been going to them for a few years now, and then Marriott Bonvoy bought them. They stayed exactly the same, but they just had they have a few more amenities. So it's like this teeny tiny, well, it's a tiny house, really. It's like a shipping container that's been turned into, I want to say a luxury cabin, because it's tiny and, it's kind of a cramped space, but it's beautiful. And they leave you s'mores kits, and they really encourage you bringing your dog. So they leave out dog bowls and dog treats and doggy bags, and they just really take care of you really well. The local family who owns they're called postcard cabins now. The local family who owns the postcard cabins, they would stop by and bring us more firewood every day. And we just had a great time. So if you're ever near a postcard cabin, I highly recommend them. They don't sponsor us, but I highly recommend Postcard. So check it out. Miss Priss says that they saw me in Pam's trial. Oh, yeah, I was in the courtroom. I had a media pass. This was frustrating. This was like right off the bat, really frustrating. There's a new documentary crew that's covering Pam's current legal fights. So they drove up from New York. I drove in from DC. We all had our media passes, and we get there to court first thing on Monday, and they tell us, you can't record, you can't stream from the courtroom. And we were like, what are you talking about? We filled out our, media passes. We got approved for them. We're here with our equipment. And they informed us that the local network, which is WMUR television in Channel 9, basically, New Hampshire, was the only one that is allowed to stream in the courtroom. So, thanks, Jen, for the tip. Appreciate you. You're the best. So because of that, we weren't allowed to stream. And then they told us that we couldn't even take stills because there was only one still photographer allowed in the courtroom. And that person was another local outlet that got in before us. So I was kind of bummed. I did live tweet. And then, WMUR was kind enough to give us the footage afterwards, which was very nice of them. But it just kind of sucked that I couldn't stream with you all in the courtroom. Pam Smart did appear on WebEx, which I kind of went over briefly with Rebecca on Monday night. And then we did a bunch of interviews afterward. WBZ Boston was there. And this was an interesting moment because Pam's aunt, Dorothy, who's 84, who has been showing up for her for 36 years, drove down from Maine and was in the hearing as well. And she was doing interviews with WBZ afterward. And I was waiting to do an interview with the documentary folks. And while we were both just sort of in the middle of doing all that, Pam called me from prison. And so I interrupted the CBS interview, which I felt bad about in the moment, but I also know that Pam only gets 15 or 30 minutes, depending on what kind of call she has. And she wanted to talk to her aunt. And so I literally interrupted the WBZ interview and handed the phone to Dorothy. And it was an interesting moment because WBZ, they requested permission to record while, Dorothy and Pam was on speaker. And then they actually interviewed Pam. They were the only ones who were able to interview Pam because all the other media outlets took off. So I was on camera to do an interview with them as well. I don't think it's aired anywhere. I'm not sure if they will air it, but I was able to sort of talk about my research on the case and, what I understand the legal arguments to be. So that was an interesting moment. I'm glad that the world could hear from Pam in that moment after the hearing, because she was literally just sitting on a WebEx and we didn't hear from her. She was just listening in on the proceedings. So. Christine said, did anyone catch Grant Smith Ellis on Melanie Little's channel yesterday? I don't know what to think. I've heard so many things about this. Christine, I have not seen it yet. I love Grant. I think he is a complicated guy. He definitely was on the anti side for a very long time. And I didn't totally trust him and his coverage. And I think I got off on the wrong foot with Grant because not that we know each other or that we were arguing online or doing anything like that, but I just didn't interact with him. And I thought I had bad opinions about him because the first interaction that I saw of Grant Smith Ellis was outside of one of the hearings for the first Karen Reed trial, where he and Macchiato got into it. And they were both acting a little crazy. So I was just like, I'm staying away from that. I'm staying away from the crazies. Turtle Boy was actually in the middle of it and trying to calm everyone down and just being like, Grant, why don't you move away? That kind of thing. And so they both came off to me as a little bit unhinged. And I just was like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. And then once Grant started really looking into the case and realized that we were on the right side over here, he changed his tune, and then he used his journalistic chops and his new law degree to do some really amazing research on the case and really dive into some of the issues. He is really focused on the Sallyport videos, which I appreciate. He breaks those down in minutia, which is amazing. But all that to say, no, I have not seen his interview with Melanie Little, though I hear it was really interesting. And I think the people like Christine, when you're like, I don't know what to think, I understand that. Grant, he takes a little bit, you have to warm up to him a little bit, I think. And so he might have come off as, you know, a little kooky, but he's a good guy. He's doing really good work. And like I said, he's complicated. We all are. We're all complicated. We contain multitudes. Let's be honest. Happy hump day, honey kid. And Tammy, you are friggin' lovely. Thank you so much for the tip. That is so generous of you. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Let's go, lesbians. Let's go. Good morning, Dr. Jen Toxic. Rebecca won't be here with me, Renee, but I will tell her, and you'll see her tonight at 5 p.m. on the members only cross roast. She did do a great job outside of court, and I appreciate you saying so. Let's see. Christine, we wait on Queen Corey. I don't know what that means. Oh, you're responding to Christine. Yeah. Queen Corey is another one. Man, she's doing saints work here. She's I just between her and Emily C and Kyle Sharkey, I'm so thankful for them. We have had access to so much from these hearings in this case, and it's really helping us break down, you know, like how we've been feeling about it for the past almost, what is it? Oh God, it's almost been 4 years, hasn't it? I guess it has been 4 years, 2022. Just nutty. Like everything that we've seen, it really, what I love about all these document dumps is it really shows you how much power judges and prosecutors have in our justice system by what they allow into a hearing, what they allow into a trial, I should say. So when we're seeing these documents that are coming out, we're seeing a lot of discovery and a lot of it was not allowed into the trial. There's so many things where I see something and I'm like, geez, if that had been allowed in, I mean, the jury did the right thing, you know, mistrial, hung jury in the first and a full acquittal in the second, besides the operating under the influence charge. But had they seen what we're seeing now, I don't even think they would, I think it would have been a not guilty from day one. And the thing that really bothers me about it is that the prosecutors had access to all this stuff. They had access to these interviews with Chris and Julie Albert and Courtney Proctor, and they still pushed forward. Like, I don't know if you've watched these interviews, but like I said, we're going to watch one of them for Cross Roast, and we're going to break down Julie Albert's interview on Thursday. The cops can tell they're lying. The cops know they're lying. And these cops, the Massachusetts State Police, they're very calm and patient, but it's very obvious these people are lying about their relationship with Michael Proctor and Courtney Proctor. And that should have been a huge red flag for the prosecution. And the way that I understand it is, you know, these interviews happened right before the first trial. And to me, it feels like it's Michael Morrissey being like, oh shit, they're calling me out on my bullshit. I better make this look good. And so they start investigating the claims of connections between the Proctors and the Alberts. And they are huge. They're huge. I mean, not to give you any spoilers, but Julie Albert was Courtney Albert's nanny for almost a decade. And when I see reports like the interview that Michael Proctor and Yuri Buchanan did with Chris and Julie Albert in the same room, I might add, at the same time in their house, I might add, all, you know, against police procedure, investigative procedure. It's not just that they had the connections. It's that even Michael Proctor was aware of his own impartiality. He was aware of the appearance of conflict, because in the report from those interviews, in the beginning, he said that they had formal introductions. And I, obviously correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. I believe it was with the interview with Chris and Julie. It might have been with the interview with Colin. But for Michael Proctor to say that he formally introduced himself to these people he's known most of his life, and who he was in wedding parties with, and who babysat his children, and who was the nanny for his sister, his self-proclaimed best friend for a decade. I mean, come on. This is insane to me. It's insane. Joy said, so glad you didn't meet a serial killer in the woods, Mel. No, we were in New Hampshire. We were very close to where I grew up. They may be out there, but I think I could have handled myself. I had weapons. I had an axe with me, and I had my hunting knife, and I had fire. We were good. I could have handled it. Plus Ruby's the best alarm, like, guard dog. Hackles go up. She starts hopping around like a little bunny and yelling at everybody. Like, that she would have been our alarm. She would have gotten rid of the serial killer. So anyway, Tall Red Text said, the Melness is my favorite. That's very sweet of you. Yes, Allie in Texas. Yay for the roast. There's definitely something off with Julia. There's something off with Julie Albert. Ugh. Jay Penn said Rebecca did great coverage. She absolutely did. So good. I'm so proud of her. I love that she is my co-host. I love her dearly. We got to hang out with Kevin and Rebecca. Must have been Sunday night. Yeah. So Sunday night, Rebecca, Kevin, and I met in Concord, New Hampshire, where the courthouse for Pam's hearing was Merrimack County Superior Court. And we had a lovely dinner, and we were joined by the two documentarians who are putting together a new doc about Pam. And it was great. It was just a really great, like, it reminded me of the 90s when we all used to just like hang out at cafes and drink coffee and just talk for hours. That was dinner on Sunday night. The weather was gorgeous. It was like 75 degrees and sunny, a little breezy. We just sat outside at this restaurant called Street, which I've been to. They have one in Portsmouth as well. I love Street. It's all basically street food from all over the world, and so good. We had a great dinner. We had great conversation. And then we all promptly went to bed so we could deal with our 8 a.m. In court appearances. What else did we do? Oh, for those of you in New England, this is not going to be news to you. Maybe it is. Maybe you don't like the same things that I like, which is totally fine. Hey, Sarah, thanks for the tip. I got to introduce Lindsay to the Weather Vane. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. It's been so long. I used to work at the Weather Vane was one of my first jobs, like out of high school into college. I was a server. And I was also, this is where I honed my skill at shucking oysters. I was the oyster shucker at Weather Vane for a really long time. So whenever they would do like dollar oysters or the Valentine's Day like specials for oysters, I was the one behind the bar, just like cracking open. And I have a good scar on my hand. You guys can't see it, but I stabbed myself with the oyster knife one time. I love shucking oysters. I'll do it all day long. If you have a party and you want someone to crack open some oysters for you, call me. I'm your girl. But I got to introduce Lindsay to the Weather Vane. She's had many a lobster roll in her life, but she's never had a Weather Vane lobster roll. And I got to have some of the best sea scallops and haddock I've had in a really long time. We don't have that quality in here in DC. So I was really excited for my sea scallops and my haddock. Oh, I had fish chowder too. God, I love Weather Vane fish chowder. Anybody love Weather Vane in the chat? It's me. I'm the one. I've never, Jen Toxic said, I've never seen a lying liar like Julie Albert. Faux show. We do balance each other out sometimes. It's funny because Rebecca gets really like amped up about some stuff too. And And I love it when she goes there, and I try to be the calm one, which is really difficult for me, because I do feel like I'm balanced in some ways, but my balance always swings in the direction of justice. And I really, it doesn't, I am of the mindset, it doesn't matter to me. It shouldn't matter to anybody. If you are the worst criminal on the planet, you should still get a fair trial. You know, our constitutional rights should be upheld, because if we're not upholding our constitutional rights for the worst amongst us, then they're not being held up for anybody, you know? And I have to tell you something. I can't tell you the whole story yet, but I will eventually. As many of you know, I did like a breakdown, like a Cliff Notes version. It was a 3-hour stream or so about the Pamela Smart case and the investigation that I did for the In Between podcast, and how I, through my investigation, came up with all new constitutional. I didn't understand it at the time, but what I was investigating, what I came up with, ended up being constitutional violations that happened in her trial. So when Matt, her lawyer, found out what I had discovered in the investigation, he was like, oh shit, you know, these are all constitutional violations. I can write legal papers on this. And that's how we got to the habeas part. As many of you know, I discussed a woman named Cindy Butt in my breakdown of the Pamela Smart case. Cindy Butt was not, as I understand it, from my investigation and also my sourcing, Cindy Butt was not her legal name at the time that she testified at the trial. I won't get into everything she testified about, but I do want to say there was a person in the trial, Cindy Butt, who testified under a name that was not legally hers. I don't know if the prosecution knew that or not, or if she just lied to them. I understand that she did it because she was worried about being impeached by the defense about a case that she had going on for welfare fraud. So I'm alleging this right now. It's all based in my investigation and research. It's alleged, but that is what I discovered. So on my drive home yesterday, I get an email from Matt with an affidavit attached, a new affidavit that came in from a person who is very central to this case, who claims that the person who testified in the trial was not him, and that the state had a plant. Now, this sounds very complicated. This is an affidavit, though. This is sworn testimony, basically. This guy saying, hey, I've recently been told that I testified in this trial. I did not testify in this trial. The person who testified was not me, and the state used somebody else and used my name and testified for me. Now, I am in the process, and I'm doing this today. This is the work that I have before me today, between my two streams. I have to track down who this guy is. I have to try to get him on the phone. I have to talk to the sponsor lawyer in New Hampshire. I have to figure out where this came from and why it came. But it's blowing my mind. And I don't know if it's just a person who is having mental health issues. I don't know if, because I did my research yesterday. I mean, as soon as I got home after a 10-hour drive, I literally jumped on the computer. I went through the case files. I went through all the police reports and all the interviews. I found this person's name. I broke down all of their testimony. I rewatched the testimony. I have found who I think the guy is that signed or wrote the affidavit. And I think I'm seeing a picture of who he is now, which is 35 years later. And that person is in prison. So that's what I can tell you right now. Can't tell you names. I can't tell you if it's true or not. It's something I am hunting down today for the rest of the week, probably, because if true, that would be a second witness who said they were someone and they were not that person. And either the state knew about it or they didn't know about it. Either way, kind of crazy. Thoughts? You guys have thoughts about that? I know I'm being a little cryptic, but Becky says, honest debate is how we learn and grow. Shouting matches aren't. I agree. I think I think I'm feeling a little insecure about my passion and emotions about these cases, because we did receive some feedback on the Facebook group that was really upset, very upset that because they thought I was downplaying the inappropriate, uneven power dynamic between Pam Smart and Bill Flynn when he was 15 and she was 21, and he was 16 and she was 22. Uh, they think that I'm being flippant about statutory grape, and I'm not. My focus and my investigation has not been on that part of this case. My focus and investigation has been on the constitutional failures of her trial. And so, there were a few comments that were along the lines of, "We really like you, Rebecca, but we don't really we tune out when Mel's on," or "We really like Rebecca's coverage. She's even-handed and fair, and Mel is basically making excuses for child predators," which I am absolutely not. And I think if you were there for the whole stream, I'm sure you heard me say the word statutory grape to describe what happened between Pam Smart and Bill Flynn. She was 22 and she was 21 when they met. She was 22 and he was 15 and then 16 when they had I'm so careful about how I say it, because if I say the word relationship, I get dragged. But relationship could mean anything. It could be friends, it could be acquaintances, it could be a lot of things. So please know that when I'm saying the word relationship, I'm not necessarily saying it was consensual. I am laying out the facts. The facts of the case are Bill Flynn, at 15 years old, pursued Pam. And as a 22-year-old, she should have said, "This is not right. I'm not doing this." And that's where she was wrong. Those are the facts. I can't help the fact that Bill Flynn pursued Pamela Smart and was obsessed with her. I can't help that fact. It is a fact. What happened after that is not okay in my book or anyone's book. I'm a co-parent. I'm a bonus parent. If a 22-year-old was, in a sexual situation or forming that kind of relationship with our 17-year-old, I would be pissed about it. And at some point, our 17-year-old has to make up her own mind when she turns 18, if that's what she wants or not. I think that's all I'm going to say about it, because it's a very nuanced conversation. I think you guys all know that. And I did get a lot of shit for it, and people just being like, "Yeah, I tune out when Mel talks," or, we can't even have this conversation because Rebecca's not allowed to talk about it. Rebecca is a journalist and she works for an organization that is heavily involved in covering the Pamela Smart case. So it is unethical for Rebecca to give her opinion about that case. She doesn't want me to stop giving my opinion. We try to do it separately if we can, like I'm doing right now. And like I did with the 3-hour case. And if you're not open to that case, I completely understand. You don't have to watch the coverage, but don't pan the whole show just because I am passionate and have done a decade's worth of work on this case and want to talk about the facts of it and sometimes give my opinion about it. Please don't pan the whole show just because Rebecca can't come on and talk to me about that, especially when we've put out almost 700 videos that's commentary about all the other cases that we work on together and have talked about for years. So that's all I'm going to say about it. I did respond and tried to be as fair-minded as I possibly could. And I appreciate the comments and I appreciate the feedback, but we all have our own confirmation bias. And sometimes that really supersedes everything else. So, this is a nice comment on the heels of what I just talked about. Should have come with a warning, said Mel, your emotion, thoughtfulness, and rage represents all of us, and I love to hear your take on things. Thank you so much for saying that. Appreciate it. And you don't have to agree with me. I don't want everyone to agree with me. I love debate. but let's have good faith about it. Like, let's come to debate with good faith. Let's see. Her questions were spot on, mama of a medic. Rebecca's so good at her job. She was my mentor. I think you all know that. When I first started the In Between podcast, I went to Rebecca, and Rebecca's the one who told me to pursue the story, because she thought that I had a unique perspective and insight and access. And it turned out she was right, I think. I mean, the AP did say it was in the top 10 true crime podcasts of 2024 or 5. I can't remember which one. Number 8. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, Amanda. Everyone say thank you to Amanda for doing our chapters for us. She's amazing and we love her. And she is absolutely right. Don't forget to like the stream on your way in or on your way out. Dr. Jen Toxic said, Mel babes, we will listen to whatever you want. You're very sweet. You're very kind. The volume wasn't great at Pam's hearing. No, it was awful. It was awful even inside the hearing. Both of the lawyers, I mean, Matt's pretty soft-spoken unless he gets really passionate, and then his voice goes way up. And then the attorney for the ADA for the state of New Hampshire, he just spoke so softly. And I will probably put together a video or maybe a stream where, if you're interested in it, where I sort of go through the live hearing. But I do need to boost the audio, and I need to get everything from everybody that recorded there. So I'll go over it at some point. Yeah, Becky. So Julie Albert was, okay. So Courtney Proctor, Julie Albert, Chris Albert were all questioned by the Massachusetts State Police as well. Michael Proctor was as well. I think he was one of the last interviews, if I'm correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Julie had to come back twice more, because we'll get into it. But basically, it was about the text messages in her phone, and the cops asked her for her permission to go through her phone and see if they could find text with Michael Proctor. And she was like, I don't know. I have to check with my husband. And so she went home and she talked it out with Chris, obviously. And they probably they kind of coordinated their stories, I'm assuming. And she came back, and then she had to come back a third time, as far as I understand it. So yeah, she was there at least twice, maybe 3 times. Courtney Proctor tells us everything. Penny says. Penny, you're not wrong. Let's see. Good morning. Happy to see you made it home, Mel. Thank you, Danielle. I'm glad to be home. Let's see. I'm really behind on the chat, I am sure. Nutrix said, I subscribe because Rebecca said it would make you happy, and I enjoy hearing each of your takes on the subject matter. It does make me happy. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate that. It gives me a little serotonin boost. Kindergarten, Melissa. I know. What was up with that? Courtney Proctor pronounces kindergarten, or I guess, if you're from Massachusetts, kindergarten. She pronounces it kindergarten. It was so strange. Yeah, she was your nanny. Mel Little is absolutely right, Aaron. She was your nanny for a decade. Oof. All right. Emily C says kindergarten is not a Massachusetts thing. TC Nerd said, I can attest. I lived in Massachusetts for almost 15 years, and I grew up in New Hampshire. Kindergarten is not a thing. I don't know where that came from. Maybe she was trying to be cute, like kindergarten. I don't know. It was so weird. It was so fucking weird. Let's see. Yeah, the family time was so awesome, you guys. It was so nice. My cousin Julia ended up being like, she's the youngest of all of us, and there are a lot of cousins. I'm the oldest cousin. And she somehow, it fell to her to take care of everything in the end. And I'm not really sure why. I can say that it's because my mother and her brothers, many of them have failed at life. And that's a sad thing to say, but in the end of their own mother's life, they didn't take any responsibility for her care. and it fell to my very youngest cousin, and she was amazing. She was my grandmother's best friend. She was there for her every day and took care of her, and ended up paying for all of the arrangements afterward. Um, which I'm going to try to figure out a way to pool some money between the cousins and whoever's left in my family to see if we can, help her, because she's young. She's like, I think she just turned, yeah, I'm 20 years older than her. So she just turned 30, and she just got married a couple of years ago. She just got, a house with her new husband, and it shouldn't financially fall on her. And it bothers me so much that the supposed adults in the family didn't help her take care of their own mother. But she got her this amazing, beautiful stone urn that is sealed all the way around because we are going to bury her. But the urn was so beautiful, and my family has a dark sense of humor. So when I texted Julia, my cousin, and I was like, "Hey, Jules, I'm coming," and she's like, "Okay, great, I'll bring Nan." And I was like, what?" And she was like, sorry, I can only deal with this with humor. And I mean, it's funny to me. It's funny to all of us. And at the end of the day, we're like, thanks for bringing the old girl, and we all just sort of talked to her, and we played her favorite country music, and it was good. It was really good. I'm so glad we got to do it. So let's see. Good morning, Kitty on the beach. I look like my soul has been filled. I'm a 51B said, I appreciate that. I feel fulfilled. I feel full right now. Like, I feel happy. I'll be honest with you, I feel like the hearing actually went pretty well for Pam. And that gives me a lot of hope that she might see some justice in all of this. And I feel really, I always am so calm and refreshed when I spend time in the woods. Lindsay and I have talked about like where we would retire if we ever get to that point. I don't know if either one of us will ever be able to retire. Hopefully we will. But I'm hoping that it's somewhere where I can look out at the woods and I can hear running water, whether that's the ocean or a river or a lake, doesn't matter to me. I need to be near the water in the woods. That's where I grew up. And just sitting by a campfire and staring out into the woods that's my like happy place, calm. Yes, I need a postcard cabin review. They're amazing. I'm going to show you guys what they look like so you can understand. I mean, some of you may have already seen it. Hold on, let me pull them up. Postcard. We've stayed in several of them. And it's usually, so they're located usually within a 2-hour drive of a major city. So they have them in Boston. They have them all across the country now. But we just absolutely love them. Hold on. I will show you the postcard cabins. This is, I mean, and for those of you who showed up for like some hard-hitting true crime stuff, this is more of like a hangout. We are going to get to some like Lindsay Clancy stuff, but this is more of like a hangout. I needed to get back into the swing of things. So, all right. So these are the postcard cabins. This is exactly what they look like, by the way. This looks, and they're all named. They all have cute names. So I don't know if you can see this up here. Where it said like near the door, there's a little square and it says Jan. Ours was named Tio. And like on the way out of the campground, the last one I saw was named Ethel. And I just thought that was so cute. But so these, like, you can see how tiny it is. You get a picnic area, you get a lead for your dog. So it's connected to the porch. You get a lead. There's usually a campfire around here. Every single one of these things is in the woods. So they each have their own sites, but they also have this amazing window next to the bed. And this is what I live for, this window right here. So you can see it's really tiny, but you get s'mores kits and you get coffee, and they're designed to make you slow down. So they have a box in every cabin that's like a little wooden box, and you can put your cell phones in it, and it's like unplug, put your cell phone away kind of thing, which is difficult for me and Lindsay because we both had to work while we were there. But yeah, they're queen beds. Some of them have like a bunk over the main bed too. And one of the cabins we saw was actually connected to another one by this string of like outdoor like fairy lights. So two families were staying and they had the campfire in the middle. It was so nice. But yeah, there's a stove. There's a 2-burner stove. I don't know if you can see it. 2-burner stove, sink, all the things you would need like in a regular hotel room. And then they like come by and you can see like the little s'mores kits. They'll come by and they'll give you more s'mores kits. They'll give you more firewood. You know, this lady put up her hammock. That's a great idea. But yeah, we love them. We absolutely love them. And you just go to, they're now owned by Marriott. So you can go and figure out, like it says New Orleans here, Houston, Dallas. We've been to Boston and DC. There are 2 near DC. But yeah, they're just really great. You should check them out. I highly, highly recommend. And like I said, they're not our sponsor, though I wish they were. Because wherever I go, I would stay in one. Oh, I don't like that. Okay. All right. Let's see. You guys are all so sweet about my nan. She was the funniest lady. She had the best sense of humor. God, I loved her. She had her faults. I mean, let's not. She was born in the 30s, you know, so at the tail end of or going through the Depression. So she had her quirks and she had her failures as well, which we all do. But Elizabeth is not a teacher. Courtney is a teacher. Yeah. Did I say that Elizabeth was a teacher? I didn't mean to say that. Yeah, I didn't mean to say that. Although I feel like I also heard that Elizabeth was, but who knows? Okay. Okay, what I'll say is this, Chase. You have to be willing, if it, like, let's say there's 2 of you, like, let's say you go with your partner or your best friend or whatever, you have to be willing to live in a very tiny space with somebody. There's a full bathroom, there's a full shower, there's a kitchen, there is a table, like a dining area. There's plenty of storage. Like, they really did a great job. These are tiny house people. They did a great job of creating space to put things away. They've also designed it in a way that, like, you know, hidden in the walls are lights that come out over the bed. So you like reading lights. All of the windows have, you know, blackout blinds on them if that's what you want. You just have to be willing to live in a small space with somebody, and you have to be willing to spend a lot of your time outside, like near the campfire. We were really worried we were going to get rain. We lucked out with 2 really beautiful days. So if it had rained, we wouldn't have been able to have my family over because we couldn't have all crammed into that tiny space. Okay. I'm just saying, so who was supposedly stalked when they met Lucky at the school parking lot? That was Courtney, I believe. Wasn't it? Michael Proctor was really pissed off about it in his testimony, and the Judge Bev allowed him to like go off on a tangent about David Yannetti being in the parking lot. I believe it was his sister's school. I could be wrong. You guys might be arguing about this in the chat. It may not even be something that I said, but oh my God, this is perfect. So, Justin Earthbound Misfit said someone did a celebrity lookalike with Julie Albert and Iggy Pop, and I can't unsee it. I keep expecting her to start singing "Run Like a Villain." That is so perfect. She does look like Iggy Pop. Let me find a picture of Iggy Pop for those of you who don't know who Iggy Pop is. Oh my God, she looks just like Iggy Pop. That's crazy. Okay, this is Iggy Pop. Of course, he has like a beard and a mustache sometimes, but this is Iggy Pop. Oh, so good. Hold on. Look. Look, it's Julie Albert. It's Julie Albert. Come on, you guys. It's Julie Albert. Perfection. Okay. I bet she hates it. I bet she's heard that before too. She probably hates it. It's like when I get compared to Keir Starmer or Billy Bush. It's not that I hate it, but I'm just like, you guys, I don't look like those guys. Okay. I'm going to give you my quick take on what happened at the hearing with Pam, and then we're going to move on to some Lindsay Clancy stuff. Let me just make sure I got everybody. I couldn't decide if he's an absolute genius or a little conspiracy theorist. Yeah, probably a combination of both, D. Honestly, he's pretty smart. He's a really smart guy. He asks great questions outside of the courtroom. We're talking about Grant Smith Ellis again. We do. Liz said we need to see Emily C's notes from the stream. Yes, we do. Okay. I was really shocked that Grant like rolled a blunt, honestly, on Melanie's show. I didn't think she would be down with that. So I need to watch it. I've only seen the screen grabs of that, so I don't really know. GSE, I was enthralled. Let me put this up on the screen. Melissa said GSE, so Grant Smith Ellis, I was enthralled, unsure, all the things. What do you think about him saying Procta and Higgy maybe in witness protection? I've been hearing that. I don't see, here's the thing. They're the ones who know the most. Well, no, that's not true. I would say Brian Albert probably knows the most. I think that it's plausible. I think that the only thing that makes it not plausible for me is Higgy. I can see that Michael Proctor might be, but if Higgins were in witness protection, I don't think he would be involved in these civil suits. Because if he's in witness protection, to me, it sounds like it means he flipped on the House defendants. And so he wouldn't be in these civil suits with them. So Proctor, I can definitely see, but I'm not sure about Higgy. Sorry, my computer just became unplugged. Okay. Yeah. Becky says once you know Grant's on the spectrum, things make more sense. For sure. Yeah. Grant, I think he's pretty open about that. So let's see. Yeah, I didn't really know at the time. I'm a 51B. Says we now know that Grant was in the right and Jessica thought that she could just put a sticker on a chair and call it hers and go home for the night. I don't know all the ins and outs of the argument and the interaction that happened between Macchiato and GSE. I heard the audio and I saw bits and pieces of the video. And knowing what I know now about the two of them, I'm assuming that it was Macchiato. I mean, I'll be honest with you. She loves to play a victim. So, in my opinion. So I just think that what I heard on that video was her putting herself in a situation and sort of acting for the camera and the audio to be like, don't touch me. You touched me. Like those kind of things. The whole thing was ridiculous anyway. But now knowing what I know of the two of them, my opinion is probably that they probably were both in the wrong, but I think Macchiato was playing it up for the cameras. So yeah. I took him all wrong. I didn't understand Grant. I took him all wrong. I did too, K-Gal. I did too. Okay. Okay. Ooh, Allison became a new member. Hope to see you tonight. We're going to have fun. It's going to be cringy. And Rebecca's probably going to be a little toasty from her frosé. Okay. You did not miss it. You did not miss it, Amanda. Amanda said, I may have missed it, but what was your overall impression of Pam's hearing? I watched it, but I didn't get a good feel one way or the other, like if it went well or not. Here's my official take on it. And I knew this sort of going into it because I'd read all the papers. So I obviously am very familiar with the habeas petition that was originally filed and the 5 points that are in that petition. Those 5 points came from the investigation I did on the case. So I know the habeas pretty much inside and out. The state immediately filed a motion to dismiss, or they filed to dismiss the case. Their arguments are always and probably will always be, this has been litigated before. And her appeals have failed in the past. So why, like, we just need to dismiss this. She's just trying again. And then Matt, her lawyer, responded to that paper with really good arguments about why they are wrong and why these are all new constitutional violations that weren't present and had never been brought up before. The state responded to that with more sort of bogus arguments about it's already been litigated. And that's what they came to court with. So the whole point of the hearing was for the judge to hear the arguments, to hear if there was anything else. I'm sure if you watched the hearing, you noticed the judge was like, listen, I've read everything. I read everything you guys wrote. I understand it. I want to hear from you if there's anything else that I need to take into consideration before I make a decision. So the state goes first. And they had some really weird arguments. I'm going to be honest with you. They're really trying to get around the main argument, which is this new study that Marion Davidson from Loyola conducted with 191 participants about confirmation bias. And the outcome of the study is that this jury was given wiretaps, which were almost inaudible. And they were told those wiretaps are evidence. They were also given written transcripts to go with those wiretaps that they were told were not evidence. They were just a guide. And Marion Davidson took those wiretaps and those transcripts, and she pulled 11 instances of what the jury was told were the most incriminating comments that could be heard on the wiretaps. And she had 3 groups of people. One was like a base group where you only had the wiretaps. And another one was the wiretaps plus the transcripts, the way that they were given to the jury. And the third was the wiretaps plus transcripts that were created for the study. And the bottom line is this: out of 191 people, 191 people said, there is no way for me to tell what is being said on those audio tapes, on those wiretaps, without the use of the transcripts. And no matter what is on the paper, that is what I believe. So I'm paraphrasing. That's not the science of it. There's a lot more science to it. It's a huge study, and it's a huge report. And honestly, I think it's groundbreaking, and it's going to probably help with many other cases where these things have happened. So the state was like, we've never even seen this study. We don't know what this study is about. We only know what they've alleged in this study. Well, I'm not a lawyer, but I do know that that's not what this hearing was about. The hearing is about, can this case move forward so that Pam Smart can have an evidentiary hearing where Marion comes and gets on the stand as an expert witness and explains the study to lay people so that they understand it, so that the state understands it. And then obviously other witnesses as well. But the state kept being like, we've never seen this study. We don't know. They don't have to give them the study yet. They have to say that they have to make the arguments that are fact as far as Pam's side is concerned in their filing, and the state has to combat those facts. So that was one of the arguments. The other argument was basically, again, this has been litigated. She's gone through appeals before for ineffective assistance of counsel. And then they also said these wiretaps and transcripts were also basically not litigated, but they went through the appeals process, and the New Hampshire Supreme Court turned down her appeal. Now, I will add some context to that. The first appeal she had was overseen by the judge from her trial. And some of the things that were brought up in the appeal were judge misconduct. Like, he made bad rulings. He judged himself on the appeal and obviously didn't grant her an appeal. Another appeal dealt with the wiretaps and the transcripts and there being double speak, meaning that some of the wiretaps and transcripts were, people weren't sure who was speaking, if it was actually Cecilia Pierce or Pamela Smart. So that was part of an appeal. That is not what this is about. What this is about is that these wiretaps, the wiretaps were authenticated in court by Detective Pelletier, who was the lead investigator on the case, and the forensics audiologist, the forensic audiologist from the FBI, who enhanced the tapes. That's how they were authenticated. The wiretaps went along with these transcripts. Now, these transcripts, this is 36 years at this point, guys. These transcripts have never been authenticated. Transcripts, when they come into a trial, have to be certified. Not only do they have to be certified, the person who created the transcript should also have to testify, even if it's in a voir dire, even if it's before the judge, to say, yes, I am authenticating these transcripts. That never happened. And the person who created the transcripts is a ghost. Nobody knows who she is, or they are. They keep calling her a secretary. We don't know. When I interviewed Prosecutor Maggiato, and I hit him pretty hard on this, who is this person who did the transcripts? I don't know, some secretary in the DA's office. Well, what was her name? I don't know, some secretary in the DA's office. And he even went as far as to say, and they probably just had a secretary do it because they were cheap and they didn't want to have to pay for a professional. He admits to me on tape, I have it in audio, it's in the podcast, that that's what the DA's office did, the Attorney General's office did. And so the issue here is that the tapes have not, the transcripts have never been authenticated, nor we don't know who did them. And from a layman's perspective, I found inconsistencies in the transcripts as they go to the wiretap. So if I'm seeing inconsistencies, imagine what experts are seeing. We won't ever know because we didn't have an expert on this case about these transcripts. So the state really focused their arguments around this situation, right? So they basically were like, we don't know. We've never seen this study. His filings were incomplete. That is not true. They don't have to see the study yet. The point is we are making claims that should allow us to get to an evidentiary hearing, and we have facts to base those claims on. So we go to an evidentiary hearing and we lay out the evidence, and the evidence is this study with this expert on the stand. The state also made an argument that actually really backfired on them, and Matt used it in his rebuttal. The state, this like old guy, I can't remember what his name was off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but he literally says, I mean, in 2026, we all have phones that when you leave a voicemail, when someone leaves a voicemail for you, you can choose to go and read the transcript before listening to that voicemail. And if the transcript doesn't make sense to you, you have to go and listen to the voicemail in order for the audio to make sense, which is exactly what happened, which is exactly what the jury was able to do. Now, make that one make sense to me, because we all know Matt basically was like, great example, thanks. Even AI gets transcripts wrong. Even AI doesn't tell us correct information when there is audio involved. So thank you for making that argument for us. So that was the other argument. And then there's the question. This is one of the biggest points for me. And I think it probably means more to me because of the work that I had to do to get this information. And again, this is a situation where I am not able to say the reporter's name without being chased down and sued by the Wall Street Journal legal department. So that is what I will give you. But in digging through all the files that were in Pam Smart's mom's garage, I found a transcript of an interview that was done with Charlotte Jeffs, who was a juror on Pamela Smart's trial. At the time, Charlotte Jeffs was the oldest juror. I think she was in her 70s. It had been reported by another person who was sitting in the jury pool with her. They reported this to the officers of the court as well as the judge, that Charlotte Jeffs was in the jury pool already talking about how Pamela Smart was guilty and that she was a whore and all this stuff. She made it onto the jury even after that complaint was filed. Let me take a drink. Sorry. I'm really congested today, and I apologize if I'm like snorting in your ears. The judge dismissed that complaint and allowed her to be on the jury. Other complaints came in that she was doing the same thing in the jury room once she was already on the jury. Complaints came into the judge. He dismissed them. He gave her a slap on the wrist. 10 years later, after the trial, a reporter for a now defunct magazine called Justice Magazine reached out to Charlotte Jeffs for an interview because it was the 10-year anniversary of the Pam Smart verdict. She managed to get an interview with Charlotte Jeffs. And in that interview, she said, "Why did you convict Pamela Smart of murder?" And Charlotte Jeffs in the interview, and I'm paraphrasing, this is not a quote, she said, "I convicted her because she tried to have that other, the witness killed. And I knew she was capable of it. Like she would do it again." The only problem with that argument about why she convicted her is that information never was presented to Charlotte Jeffs, that juror, in that trial, which means she read about it in the Boston Globe, who published an article, and a California newspaper that published an article about an investigation into whether Pamela Smart from prison was trying to have Cecilia Pierce unalived. Never came to fruition, never came into Pamela Smart's trial. So this juror was now reading and taking in media during the trial that was telling her other information that was not included in Pamela Smart's trial. And she made a decision about guilt on that, the media that she consumed. Nothing ever came of it because it was an interview that took place 10 years later and it was buried in the files. I verified who the reporter was, who was very reluctant to verify who she was. But I did verify it, and I have the mini cassette recording of the interview as well as the transcripts. So that was another point that the state was arguing against. They're basically saying Charlotte Jeffs is no longer alive, and she was old, and they assumed addled when she gave this interview. That was their argument. I don't think that's a great argument, in my opinion. Matt really didn't touch much on that because it's kind of a lame argument. He did focus, however, on what we call the bathtub tapes, or the Juror 13 tapes. And Juror 13, her name is Karen Sicard. Juror 13, throughout the entire process of the trial, took copious notes while she was in the hearings. And then, because she wasn't allowed to take her notebooks home with her, would come home every single night, sit in the bathtub by herself, and record her thoughts on an audio recorder. And we have all those tapes. And in her recording, so the argument that Matt was making on the other side, then this is dealing specifically with the wiretaps and the transcripts, is Karen Sicard on the bathroom tape says, I believe it's 3 times, I would not have convicted her if not for the tapes and the transcripts. And she says it 3 times. So that's how Matt led with that argument. I thought it was a solid argument. I didn't even expect him to bring up the bathtub tapes in these arguments. But because we have another juror saying, I would not have convicted her, I was going to hang the jury as it was. One of the last things she says to us on the tapes is, I just found out, like, we just found out that Pam Smart has been convicted of we convicted her of accomplice to first degree murder. And we just found out that the sentence is life without parole. Had I known her sentence was life without parole, I would have never convicted her of this crime, and I would have hung this jury. And she says it on tape. But she also says, I wouldn't have convicted her. I wouldn't be able to convict her if not for these tapes and transcripts. So if a juror is using the tapes and transcripts as evidence or as a reason to convict, and those transcripts are faulty, inaccurate, not authenticated, who knows who wrote them, what kind of bias they had, and that bias can't be put back into the tube for the jurors, that's the argument. That's the argument for, and again, keep in mind, Matt's arguing to move forward. That's all they want to do. They want an evidentiary hearing. And what would happen is, so the judge ended on, my thoughts about the judge. He seemed pretty fair. He also was really, really focused intently on Matthew's arguments and was taking a lot of notes while Matthew was speaking. And he actually asked a really great question, which was, what do you say to the state's argument that the Supreme Court has already turned down the issue of the wiretaps and the transcripts? And Matt made a great argument, and that's where the bathtub tapes come in, as well as the appellate judiciary already made a decision about the double speak aspect of the wiretaps, not the authentication of the transcripts, nor a scientific study that says these transcripts lead to cognitive and confirmation bias with jurors. So those are the arguments. I thought the judge was very fair. I loved his questions. I think there were a lot of nerves in the courtroom. I think Matt was nervous. The Innocence Project showed up. They brought a lawyer and they were amazing. Her name was Cynthia. I'm hoping to have her on the show. She's fan-fucking-tastic. And up until recently, Innocence Project New England did not have a representative in New Hampshire. So they now have Cynthia, and that's amazing to me. And then the judge said that, within 30 to 60 days, he will have his decision. I believe he already had a decision. I think he'd already made up his mind before he came in. And I am hopeful, and I think he might be leaning toward giving her an evidentiary hearing. I don't think there's any way around it. There is evidence there. So, afterward, this was helpful too in forming an opinion. But afterward, I was able to meet with Cynthia, the Innocence Project attorney, as well as the attorney that sponsored Matt to be pro hoc vice in New Hampshire. And the sponsor attorney told us that he's tried several cases before Judge Kennedy, and he's a very fair and impartial judge. And in fact, he had a murder case before Judge Kennedy, and it was a young man who had committed this crime. And the judge literally said, I don't feel comfortable putting a young person away for the rest of their lives, because I don't, think that I'm paraphrasing. I don't think that they are capable of making, cognitive decisions at his age. And he said something along the lines of, I have daughters and I can't imagine putting them away for the rest of their lives. So those two comments in a murder trial that the attorney who was on Matt's side had experienced, that gives me a ton of hope. Judge Kennedy is younger. I don't think he's been on the bench for a very long time. He used to be a solicitor, but he's probably in his 50s. Which I think would take some of the emotion out of this. But the attorneys were saying, their opinion is that the state was phoning it in, and that they've been doing that a lot lately. They know, they're so used to winning that they just phone it in. And that's the feeling that I got from it. Let me take a look at some of the chat. Okay. Yeah, I have a tickle in my throat. It's going to make me sneeze or cough. Hold on. Ooh, that got me. Nutrix said, Boozy Beauty is also deep diving in. I enjoy the rewatching of snippets of Karen's trial after the info obtained in the FOIA dumps. Thank you, Queen Corey, Emily C, and Kyle Sharkey. Thank you so much. I've been thinking about doing, and maybe this is a huge endeavor, and I'm not sure if I'm up for it or if I have the time for it. I would love your feedback. I've been thinking about going back through and rewatching the trials, maybe with you guys. I don't know why. I feel like I need more insight. I feel like I could dig down a little bit deeper. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Let's see. Grant crushed it, Ben Burnett said. Grant, as far as I've heard, Grant did crush it. Okay. I'm just saying said, distracted by Julie's super tiny hands. Me too. Happy hump day, Ellie. Dr. Jen Toxic also said that I look well rested and glowy. Thank you. I feel pretty rested. Yes, breaking new grounds in Portsmouth. I don't know what that's in reference to, Teacup Kraken, but let me know. A great meal of food. It was a great meal of food at Street. I know the Weather Vane. I love the Weather Vane. Yeah. The Weather Vane is like a staple. It's a staple, a New England staple. I would love to be one of these people Aaron rambles on. I love talking to oyster shuckers in New Orleans. They tell the best stories. I'd love to be that person where someone just like sidles up to the oyster bar and I get to like crack oysters and tell stories. That'd be fun. Haddock is underrated. It's my favorite. It's my favorite fish. It always has been. Ellie says, love scallops. I'm from Alaska and the seafood just is not the same here in the middle of the country. Except for those Alaskan king crab legs. Those are yummy. I've eaten so many of them in my day because I worked on Deadliest Catch. So they would all the boats would come in and they would bring fresh Alaskan king crab off the boats, and they would just like give us tables full of it. So I ate my weight in Alaskan king crab, and it's so yummy. This is funny. Just Shorty said, I'm gonna start saying shuck you. I'm trying to reduce my cursing. LOL. I probably should try to reduce my cursing, but it's very difficult for me. Oh no. Out of work hairdresser Dressa said, I'm having an allergic reaction just listening to all the shellfish talk. I'm sorry, that was very shellfish of me. Let's see. An affidavit, that's huge if true. That I think we're talking about the mystery guy that sent over the affidavit for that testified in the Pam Smart trial. I was talking with Rebecca and Kevin about it last night, and they also agree that it's wild and wacky, whatever it is. And I really would love to get to the bottom of it, because this guy's testimony was sort of an anomaly in the trial, and it always stuck out to me as weird, but also like really important. So I can't wait to figure out what happened. I'm waiting to talk to Matt too. If found true, that would be insane, wouldn't it? It would be crazy. And obviously, everything that happens in this case, I'm talking about Pam Smart again. Sorry for those of you who hate Pam Smart. Everything that happens in this case, when I find something out 35 years later, I think, oh my God, like had this been found out in 1995, like 3-4 years after the trial, we could have dealt with this, and maybe it wouldn't have been a life without parole sentence, and maybe it wouldn't be 36 years later. Can you imagine if this guy, if what he's saying is true, that the person who testified was not him, and that was a plant from the state? If that's true, a woman's been in prison for 36 years and doesn't have any option for parole. And the murderers got out 10, 15 years ago. What the frick? I'm a 51B. Pam must be so incredibly grateful for a person like you to be looking into her case. Warms my heart to know people like you are out there. I appreciate you saying that. I'm not doing it for any kind of accolades, because obviously I get more hate than I get love for this case. It's really important to me. This case is personally important to me because I was 15-year-old and I lived in and around that community, and I saw what happened, and I had a really shitty opinion about this case until I became an adult. And so I'm glad that I'm able to do something. To me, it's like trying to right a wrong, my own personal wrong. So that's what I'm trying to do. I did have an opportunity to speak with Pam's mom and her aunt, obviously, but her mom called after the hearing and we talked it out. And they're so used to only having family members on their side. I think it's weird when somebody comes along and is like, I see all kinds of things wrong with this case and I want to bring light to that. So I think they're grateful, but that's not why I'm doing it. It would be a pretty amazing thing if before Pam's mom passes away, they're able to see each other again. But her mom's been fighting for her for 36 years, and so has her aunt. Amanda said, I've been watching SO since almost day one. If anyone has seen you for more than 1 second, they'd know your heart. Well, some people do, but I think I get what you're saying, Amanda, and I appreciate you saying it's really sweet of you. I think that our confirmation bias and our there are certain things that really get people upset, and the situation in this case is something that gets a lot of people upset. And in my opinion, oftentimes the people are like, hang her in the town square or bury her under the jail, or they want to see her unaliving. It all stems back to the stupid shit she did and the predatory relationship that she had with Bill Flynn. And that's what they convicted her of. And that, in my opinion, is wrong. We have separate charges. And let's keep this in mind. She was never charged with statutory rape. She was never charged with any predatory PDF statutory rape, any of those things. Had she been, what would her sentence have been? And has she served her time for that crime? Yes. I will say emphatically yes. Let's see. Yeah, I think this is what it is. I think people hear what they want to hear. Well hung jury said. Well hung jury, that's a good name. People hear what they want. You explained it properly. Sometimes I don't use the right words. I also got raked across the coals because the restaurant that Cecilia Pierce worked at was called Papagino's. And I remember saying it on the stream and going, they're an old school New England pizza chain. But what I actually said was Papa John's. But you know why I said Papa John's? It was because I was hungry and I love me some Papa John's. And it was in my brain. And so I said Papa John's. I think I said it twice. And they were like, by the way, come on. And I'm just like, you guys, obviously I made a mistake. I know that Papa John's isn't like an old school New England pizza chain. I know that I was meaning to say Papagino's. I'm sure most of the people in the chat from New England knew I meant Papagino's. Ugh. It's just like those things that, like, I don't know. I guess I shouldn't let it get to me, but yeah. Billy Flynn's own friends used the word obsession. They did. And, it's difficult because when I have to debate somebody about the facts of this case, I think people forget that I'm not just like creating a narrative out of whole cloth, that I'm just like telling a story. I've done my research. I have read every single one of Bill Flynn's jailhouse letters, the ones that included swastikas. I have read every single one of J.R. Vance Latamy's jailhouse letters. I have read every affidavit of cellmates and people who were in juvie with these kids and what they said about how these boys were acting. These boys, I will say, for being 16-year-old human beings, they were innocent children, except for their criminal records, their violent criminal records. If you go to, here's a perfect example. If you go to Facebook and you look up any of the WMUR stories that have come out in the past week about Pamela Smart, you will find in the comments section a lot of people who are saying really crazy things, but you will also find Robert Fowler, who is in the comments section. Robert Fowler is the older brother of Raymond Fowler, who was the fourth boy, who was the sort of ride along, the guy in the car when they went to unalive Greg Smart. Raymond was separated from the other three boys. He was put on another side of the prison. He was kept from them, and he was kept out of the trial. He wasn't allowed to testify. Why do you think he wasn't allowed to testify? It's because Raymond refused to say that Pam Smart had anything to do with this, and he was one of those people who was talking about all the crimes they had committed: burglary, breaking and entering, violent assaults with bats, selling and trafficking coke, heroin, pot, all this shit. Robert Fowler is one of the most outspoken people in those comments, and he is a local, and he still lives in the house that he grew up in, and his brother lives downstairs, and J.R. Latamy lives down the street, and Pete lives down the street. Billy lives in Maine. And Robert is trying to explain to people, you were sold an image of these 16 to 19-year-old kids, of these like doe-eyed, crying puppy dogs, virgins on the stand. I won't talk about the virginity aspect of things. I will talk about the crying on the stand and how there are sworn affidavits from cellmates and other kids who were in juvie with them, and people who have gone on the record, on camera, on audio, saying these guys were hanging out in their cells together before trial. JR and Billy were cellmates before trial and during trial, and they had a television right outside of their cell that was playing the Pamela Smart trial all day long, every day, and those boys were watching the trial every day, all day long. Now, you guys know from your Karen Reed experiences, witnesses aren't allowed to talk to each other. Witnesses are not allowed to watch any of the trial. Witnesses are not allowed to sit inside of a courtroom. And yet, the Pam Smart trial was put on the televisions for these kids to sit in their cells together to watch the trials while doing lines of coke in their cells because, quote unquote, Billy said it makes him more emotional on the stand, joking about the relationship between Bill and Pam, talking about how Bill was obsessed with her, talking about how he wasn't going to get any anymore. All this shit happened while the trial was going on. But what the audience saw and what the jurors saw and what the locals saw was Bill Flynn looking like a sweet boy on the stand, crying and saying, I said, God forgive me. And then I pulled the trigger. Now, I believe he has regrets. I believe that he is sorrowful and hates what he did and wants justice and mercy. I believe all of that of Bill Flynn. But we cannot separate what the world was sold in this trial and what actually was happening behind the scenes in this trial. These kids were pressured into plea deals. And if you notice, Cecilia Pierce doesn't have a plea deal. They didn't do a plea deal with Cecilia because they wanted to keep stringing her along and threatening her with charges like the boys were getting, because Cecilia Pierce also helped commit this crime, in my opinion. She helped them get a murder weapon. She communicated details and information back and forth between the boys and Pam and the authorities and anyone else who would listen to her. She was bragging about it and gossiping about it at school. Okay, I'll stop there. If a 15-year-old approaches a 21-year-old, it is up to the 20-year-old to shut it down, period. You're absolutely right. Pam didn't do that. Period. I don't know what else to say. She did wrong. What happened was statutory rape. What else? I don't know what else to say. That is not the focus of my investigation. Okay. She was an adult working in a school. You repeatedly saying she wasn't a teacher really downplays the power dynamic. Love you, but didn't like how you presented that. Jess, I don't know how else to present it. The problem, the reason why I say she wasn't a teacher and that is one of the first lies that was ever told about her is because the media sold her as a teacher in a classroom with these students all day long, grooming these kids. And that's not what happened. She was a media studies coordinator who traveled all day, every day around the county and met up with students and facilitated programs where many other students were involved and many other teachers were involved in a group setting. She was not a teacher. That is factual. I am not downplaying the power dynamic by saying she wasn't a teacher. I am stating the facts, and the media has sold her as a vixen teacher, ice princess teacher takes advantages of her students. Not factual. We have to be precise in our language because this is so complicated. Okay. Okay. Emily says, I was 15 when I got into a relationship with someone I thought was 19. Turns out he was 24. But as what would be considered the Billy in this scenario, I completely agree with you, Mel. You don't have to completely agree with me. That is your prerogative, and I appreciate that. As someone who was also a 15-year-old kid who was in a relationship with an 18-year-old at the time, yeah. It's difficult. I don't want to go into depth because I'm going to get dragged again for even suggesting that these things happen, especially in the 90s. So, but I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. No. Okay. See, Justice for All, 1631 says that is not a fact that Flynn pursued Smart. That was what Smart says. That's what you know that Pam says. I have done the research. I have read all the letters. I have read every single piece of paper on this case, the case file, as well as the police reports, as well as all the interrogations. I've watched every stitch of video and listened to every stitch of audio that is involved in this entire case, and I've been doing it for over a decade. And I will tell you factually, Billy pursued Pam. He was 15. He was a dumbass kid, and she should have said no right from the bat. But those are the facts. Okay, D Cools. The Facebook comment states multiple times, "We love your passion, but feel you may be too close to this case because of how you talk about Pam's relationships with teens." How does me talking about Pam's relationship with teens have anything to do with how close I am to this case? I'm close to this case. Yes, I've been working on it for over a decade. Like I just said, I've seen every single piece of paper. I've also spoken with Pam. I have a very close relationship with Robert Fowler, one of the kids' brothers who did this. I am close to this case because I believe there are huge constitutional rights violations involved in this case. I will say this again. Pam Smart was not charged with, nor was she convicted of, statutory rape. And in the state of New Hampshire, statutory rape is anyone under the age of 16 who has a sexual encounter with someone over the age of 18. That is statutory. That is what happened here. I am very close to the Karen Reed case. I have very personal opinions about what Karen Reed's gone through as a woman. But you guys don't have any issues with my coverage of that. So it's interesting to me. Let's see. Audrey said, Mel, I started listening to you with the In-Between on GBC, which is Grab Bag collab. You all should go and sign up, follow. They do amazing work, and they support independent content creators like myself, and I really appreciated them giving me my start. Please go give them a like and a follow. Audrey said, I never felt like you downplayed how inappropriate that relationship was. You have always focused on the constitutionality. Yes. The problem is that I have to talk about it because it is a part of this case. But I did a full episode on the In-Between podcast about the boys and about the relationship. I made it very clear that there was an uneven power dynamic, that this was, a sexual assault situation. Not an assault. It was a statutory rape situation. I broke down the laws in New Hampshire. I talked about it because it has to be talked about, because in my opinion, one of the reasons why she was convicted of such a heinous crime is because people were so pissed off at her about what she did to Bill Flynn. This is very sweet. I will let Matt know. Justin Earthbound Misfit. I was so nervous for Matt, but I got started crying when he first started speaking. The judge was very receptive to him. I felt the same, Misfit. And this is huge. I mean, Matt's not nervous because he is afraid to perform in front of a judge and a jury and a court and whatever. Matt is nervous because he knows that a woman's life is in his hands. And to Matt, that is hugely consequential, and he has to do he has to give his every ounce to it. And I can tell you, after this hearing, the poor guy was wiped. He was drained. He needed to lie down. This took a lot out of him. But I think he did a good job. Let's see. My dad pronounced it like that. It's annoying. He's a Mainer. Oh, kindergarten? Oh, interesting. Okay. Let's see. Good morning, Rob. How are you, buddy? Kindergarten in Georgia. I don't know. I mean, I've never heard it before until I heard Courtney Proctor say it. Any update on the Karen Reed phone situation from trial last week? No updates yet. As soon as we get it, we will cover it. I promise you. Wait, who are we trashing? Guys, can we stop trashing her? She's a friend of the podcast, Rage Knitter. I'm not sure who you're talking about, but let me know. Let's try to not trash anybody. I mean, unless it's like, macchiato. My friend's dad died. They had him cremated, and she used to say, "My dad's in the closet," or if she was moving, it was, "My dad's in the trunk. I should probably bring him in." Jules. That's we have a dark sense of humor too. That's pretty much like, "Hey, Nan, the old girl's here," Rob, I feel you, my brother. I feel you. Rob says, "Retire? I'm going to have to schedule my funeral on a lunch break during the workday." Same, my friend. Oh, Barrington. Anna said, "I live in Barrington, New Hampshire, about 5 miles from where you grew up. Love hearing you talk about the area." I grew up in Nottingham. Barrington is my sister town. I have lots of friends in Barrington. I love Barrington. I am hoping that Caliph's doesn't change too much. I was there. I was at Caliph's probably, I don't know, like 5 years ago, and it had started like expanding and growing a little bit. And I'm like, please, you guys, please don't change Caliph's too much. It's one of my favorite little markets. Also, have you heard? Do you know Liar's Paradise, Anna? Liar's Paradise was our local market gas station in town where I grew up, and I've written an entire script called Liar's Town, and it's based on the stories of Liar's Paradise. So I'd really love to have that. I'd really like to make that film someday. Did I see any animals? No. We were really cautious, Julie, to not leave any food out at night because there are definitely bears in the area. Lindsay was obsessed with trying to see a moose, and so she's never seen a moose before. So everywhere we went, we asked the locals, "Hey, how many times have you seen a moose in your life?" And it was usually once. I've seen a moose a handful of times, but that's because I grew up in the country. Let's see. This place looks amazing. Oh, you guys are talking about all the postcard stuff. Let's see. Courtney, not Elizabeth, was a teacher. Yes, Courtney, not Elizabeth, was a teacher. I don't know what Elizabeth does. I don't really know much about her, except for what I find interesting about the interviews is how Julie always talks about she has no connection to Elizabeth. She doesn't even, maybe on social media, she's liked she's hit the like button, I think she said. But Elizabeth is showing up for all of the fundraising events, like everything, all the time. She's in all the pictures recently. And I'm like, you guys are lying. Stop lying. Okay. Okay. Emily was on with Sam B. You get some notes. Yeah, I saw part of that show with Samantha Beningo and Emily C. They were great together. I wish they would partner up. I think they're awesome. If Higgins flipped, though, I mean, it would be amazing if Higgins flipped, but I'm having a hard time fathoming that because he's a part of these civil cases. So he wouldn't be showing his face around those people, in my opinion. Okay, let me get through. I'm going to have to skip along here. Chase 21 member for a month. Thank you very much. Glad you're here. Love you and Rebecca and your content. One of my favorite channel memberships on YT. Thank you for all you both do. Thank you for being here. I hope to see you tonight. It's going to be fun. Yeah, this is an interesting question, Science and Sass. I thought the defense has to agree to the accuracy of the audio transcripts for them to be in evidence, or else it is litigated and decided by the judge. So, yes, you are correct. Pam Smart's original law team of Mark Sisti and Paul Toomey and Pam had to travel to the AG's office where they were allowed to sit in and listen to the tapes, and that was that. And after that, they're like, well, I mean, it was in the 90s, so there wasn't much they could do about anything about the tapes. the state made an argument that just wasn't true. The state, in the case that I watched, in the hearing I watched on Monday, the state was saying the tapes were authenticated and the transcripts were authenticated because the judge allowed them in. That's not how that works. You have to have a witness. They had a witness authenticate the wiretaps, but because they were calling the transcripts, they were saying the transcripts weren't evidence, they were just a guide. They kind of got around the authentication part of it. So yes, ineffectual assistance of counsel was that they should have objected, and they should have objected hard about the tapes and the wiretaps. And from what I have read in the trial transcripts and the hearings, the debates in camera with the judge, Sisti and Toomey did really push hard, but the judge let the tapes in, and he also let the wiretaps in. And one of the arguments Matt made on Monday was that the judge let these things in, but the judge was one of the people who said on record in the court in trial, I can't hear these things. No one can hear, no one can understand. And Greg's father even jumped up in the middle of the trial and said, I can't hear these damn things. Nobody could understand what was being said on the tapes, including the judge and including Greg Smart's parents. The tapes aren't the issue. And I will say this again, just to reiterate, Pam Smart knew she was being wiretapped. Her lawyers told her she was going to be wiretapped by Cecilia Pierce. Greg Smart's best friend, Brian Washburn, testified at trial that Pam, in a frenzied state of being over-medicated from shock, told him, hey, Cecilia Pierce is going to be wiretapping me. Do you think, because I'm not getting any information and I don't know what's going on, do you think that if I tell her that I know what's going on, she'll give me information? So Pam literally said, and it is sworn testimony at trial, paraphrasing, I'm going to entrap Cecilia Pierce and see if she'll give me information, because she seems to know way more than I do, which means she's curious as why Cecilia knows more than she does about the murder of her own husband. So it was testified to, and I don't understand why the jury didn't take that with any weight, but the wiretaps themselves, Pam knew she was going to be tapped so that she doesn't actually incriminate herself on these tapes. There were 3 of them, 2 phone taps, 1 actual wiretap. On the phone taps, she never, Cecilia pushes her and tries to get her to say something like she did this, and Pam never says it. Pam denies it. So the tap, yeah, anyway. The Innocence Project was there. They actually, Matt had reached out to them. Pam's been trying to get the Innocence Project involved in her case for decades. The Innocence Project usually only takes on cases that they know that they can win, and that means that there's DNA evidence involved. Now that there's this study from Loyola on Pam's case about the confirmation and cognitive bias and wiretaps and the transcripts, I think the Innocence Project has sort of become interested. I hope they have. Since Cynthia was there in the court to listen through the arguments and to talk to Matt afterward to let him know, her local perspective on the judge and the state and their arguments. So I don't know what to expect from it. I plan to reach out to Cynthia and see if I can bring her on the show and hear about some of her work, but we'll see. One of the lawyers, state media made references to you. At least I'm pretty sure he was talking about you. I was like, Santa, I know her. I think Matt may have called me an investigator. I think the state said something about it too, but yeah, that was weird. That was surreal. Yes, the transcripts might make sense and still be wrong though. Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. And that's the problem. He was very, very proud of that high-tech argument, Teacup. We're talking about when the state ADA, when he was talking about the voicemails and the transcripts we get off of voicemails, he thought he was making some groundbreaking argument. And Matt was like, hey, thanks for the argument, buddy. Thanks for making it for me. Voicemail transcripts might as well be in Chinese. It's never right. Never. It'll be like, hi, Mel, this is Mary calling from your local bank. I'm calling to let you know that we just deposited $1 million into your account. And the transcripts will be like, hi, Mark, this is Mason calling from your local bar. I'm just calling to let you know that we dropped, it's just like the transcripts on voicemails are so bad. No, they're not supposed to consider the sentence. What she's saying, however, is that the sentence doesn't fit what she's being accused of. And because throughout the entire process, during the bathtub tapes, juror 13, Karen Sicard, said throughout the entire trial, I don't think she's guilty. And the only evidence I have to weigh are these wiretaps and transcripts. And so if the rest of the jurors are saying, well, we have to convict because it feels like she's incriminating herself on these, and the state is telling us that she's incriminating herself, then that's the only piece of evidence we have to convict. But that's not true. And then she said there wasn't a dry eye in the jury when they found out what the sentence was. And many people in the jury felt like they had made the wrong decision. So that's just the facts of it. I'm not really judging it one way or another. Juries don't get to hear the sentence before they make their judgment. But once they do hear the sentence, it's okay for them to express like, oh shit, I just did that and I don't feel right about it. Denise said, Mel, I emailed you last week. I know you were extremely busy. I hope you got it. I will check. I don't. Rebecca's been handling the email and we've both been super swamped, but I will check and let you know if I got it. Okay. Oh my God. Look at this. Skip poll Nancy gifted 5 something's off memberships, which is really exciting because we're doing our members off stream tonight at Cross Roast. If you got one of those memberships, let me know in the chat. And then also don't forget to renew your membership if you like us. Let's see. Just a girl from the 6. Coming in late. I too took crap for defending a man in Ontario, Canada back in the 80s and 90s, but I was firm in my belief. Turns out I was right. Stay passionate. I mean, because I've been working on this case for over 10 years, I have dealt with folks tearing this woman apart because of the crime that she committed but was not convicted of, which was statutory rape with Billy. It's a distractor in this case. And I'm going to say that, and I'm being blunt about that. We can talk about it until the cows come home and we can all choose our language very carefully. We all know that what happened was inappropriate and should never have happened. So we have to get past that to talk about what actually happened in what is being tried here, which is the unaliving of Pam Smart's husband, Greg Smart. So I will stay passionate. I've dealt with folks calling me all sorts of names and saying all kinds of horrible things about me and also sending me death threats because I try to tell this story and because I have facts to back up why this woman didn't receive a fair trial. Yep. This is what I believe. But again, I think that people get really stuck in these arguments, Danielle, and they can't see past it. And any wavering of language, they glom onto and tear me apart for and act like I am a supporter of PDFs. And yeah, it's weird. It's weird to me. But anyway, Danielle said, I don't believe Mel ever downplayed how inappropriate the relationship was. Pam was wrong to even allow it because she was the adult. Yes, absolutely. 100%. D Cool says the point people are making is Pam's relationships, in quotes, and the power dynamics led to Greg's death, which is what she was convicted of. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's what Pam says too. Pam agrees to that. Pam says it's as if she pulled the trigger herself. That is a quote, direct quote from Pam Smart. And she will, for the rest of her days, feel horrific, horrible guilt and shame about what she did to Bill Flynn, and that eventually it led to Greg Smart's unaliving. You are absolutely correct. She was convicted of accomplice to first-degree murder. They convicted her of planning his murder. And that is what we are talking about. Rob says if she would have been convicted for the statutory charges alone, would she still be in prison? I don't think so. Agreed. Christine says that she loves to rewatch trials with me and Rebecca. So maybe we'll consider it. We'll consider the Karen Reed stuff. I don't know if Rebecca would. Rebecca's got ADHD, so I don't think she could sit through those trials with me again. But we'll see. I'm a 51B said the crimes that she did do and is guilty of, the prison sentence for those crimes would have been over by now. And I also feel like I know your heart, Mel. You're not that hard to read. Thank you for saying that. I don't think I am either. Grimmy Jen. Mel, I love your passion about things you feel so strongly about, and you do force me to give a second thought to certain issues. That's my goal in life. Shaza said, I remember feeling the quote unquote ick when they cried on the stand. Funny, not haha, the things we remember. You know who also felt that way, Shaza? Juror 13. She talked about it in depth in the tapes. She's like, she calls them crocodile tears. She said that they're forcing emotion. The whole thing was fake. She doesn't believe a thing these kids are saying. That's all from Juror 13. That's not from me. She did not trust Cecilia Pierce. She thought Pete Randall was a violent, angry dude who on the stand said that his goal in life was to become a sniper, I guess. Yeah, Billy Flynn, Justin Earthbound Misfit. Billy Flynn borrowed the Menendez brothers' wardrobe of sweaters for the trial. Yeah, he was definitely, I mean, let's not forget his mom and Pete Randall's mom also destroyed evidence. They threw away, buried in the wall, buried underground, not really sure, set on fire. All the stuff that Bill and Pete stole from Pam's condo, the stuff that was left over in the pillowcases. And they were never charged or convicted of that. The police used the charging of their moms they held that over the kid's head in order to get them to do a plea. Let's see. Oh, this is a Joy. You guys talk amongst yourselves, but Joy said, just a girl from the 6. Who was it that you were rightly defending? I'm in Ontario. The girls did not go with us, Danielle. It sounds amazing. Did the girls go with you? I'd love to take my kids to something like that, but I'm not sure they'd enjoy. I don't think the girls would have enjoyed it. Plus, there wasn't enough room for 4 people. If we'd had 2 cabins, maybe. But our 17-year-old is doing her first job, so she had to work. It's very cute. The amount of responsibility that she had, like how responsible this kid has come in like a matter of weeks is blowing my mind. I love it. One of the things I love about being a bonus parent is watching like children become like adult human beings. It's fascinating. It's amazing. I love it. Like she was nervous when she first started driving. Now she just doesn't even think about it. She gets in the car and she drives and she does all the things she needs to do. And she goes to work and she has responsibility and she's asking us to like put money away in her savings account. I'm just like, this kid is like becoming an adult and like being all responsible and shit. I fucking love it. I love it. I love watching it. It's amazing to me. Just Shorty said exactly. Making her a teacher was the salacious detail people cling to. The relationship was inappropriate. It does not equal planned murder. You said it. Thanks, Shouty. SR, statutory grape, does not equal life in prison without the possibility of parole. It certainly does not. Science and sass. Isn't that what Flynn said too contemporaneously? I think you're asking about whether he pursued her or not. And I believe he has, but don't quote me on that. He's done several interviews. He did several interviews from jail about this. He hasn't done any interviews since he's been out, which rightly so. He would get into a shit ton of trouble if he talked to anybody. Ms. Nomer says, I grew up in the 80s, and when I was 15 to 16, I hung around people, some of who were in their 20s. It was normal for me. It was normal for me too. It was normal for all these kids too. Many of the witnesses who did interviews with the police were in their early 20s, and they were like, yeah, Billy and I were hanging out last week, and we were driving around, and we were stealing bikes, and we were doing coke and drinking. It's what we did in the 90s. I had a friend, a really close friend, who before I got my license would pick me up. I played soccer with them. Like, I was a freshman on the varsity team. Almost all of my friends in my freshman year were 17 and 18 years old. And then beyond that became 20-year-olds as I moved it through high school. So I remember I must have been a sophomore or junior, and I didn't have my license yet, or I didn't have a car. I can't remember what it was. But my college friend who I'd played high school soccer with came and picked me up, and like we went out and partied all weekend. My parents had no idea where I was. We didn't have cell phones. It's what we did. It's different now. Granted, I will give you that. If this happened now, I think we'd have a huge, it would be pretty simple. It would be cut and dry. But back then, yeah, 20 somethings hung out with, and I'm not excusing it, so don't say I am. I'm just saying it's what it was. Jess said, I worked in a school for 20 plus years. Correcting the teacher part is fine, but adults in the type of role you are describing can still have close relationships with students in a serious power dynamic. Absolutely. And Pam agrees. And so do I. Let's see. Make mine mini. I'm going to point out that back then, most people didn't view this like we do now. Now it's clear. It's a clear power dynamic. Back then, the people I know were impressed that Billy got Pam. Gross, but true. I agree with you. It's not okay. I completely agree with you. It's not okay. And it would be different now, but I agree with you. Yeah. Jess, I'm not sure what you're responding to, but you said neither was Matthew Farwell. I'm assuming you're talking about Matthew Farwell being in a position where he traveled around, or the kids came and they worked in the Explorers program with him, and that's how he groomed Sandra Birchmore. I couldn't agree with you more. That happened in the mid 2000s, of course, so it's a little different. But Matthew Farwell was in a position of authority, power. He was a cop. He used that to groom Sandra Birchmore from the age of 13 on, and he and his brother and the other guy, I can never remember his name, all raped her, assaulted her, abused her. And it sounds like they did it to other girls as well. They were definitely PDFs, and they were definitely predators. And that led to a place where Sandra wanted to come out and talk about that, because he refused to accept the legitimacy of their child, who ended up not being their child. Completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. I'll just say that. No, I'm going to stand up for the chatters. Geezen. These chatters are annoying. Is this really in good faith, or are y'all here to troll? I know for a fact that D Cools and Jess are not here to troll. They are having good faith arguments with me, and they do it all the time, and I'm totally fine with it. But I am going to be firm in my opinions and the facts that I know about this case. The Packy. Dawn said, Ms. Nomer, same here. That was very common if you hung out with a group of people. Plus, they always went to the package store for you, or as we call it in Boston, the Packy. The package store is the liquor store. Yeah. Okay. Make mine in mini said, Mel, you've been very clear. I don't think you're making excuses. We just need to stay focused on the task at hand. The constitutionality of her sentence. I started the pod this weekend a lot like Karen Reed. Yes, a lot like Karen Reed, a lot like Amanda Knox, many other cases I can compare it to. And Pam was one of the first cases where the tabloid media got involved, and they turned this into a salacious thing that it wasn't. Thank you, Ellie. You're absolutely right. The relationship wasn't appropriate, and there were serious constitutional issues with the trial. One doesn't negate the other. Facts. Okay, I got to get through some of these. I'm so far behind on the chat. I'm so sorry. Here is my take, Nora, Miss Garbage Brain said. Pam can be a graper and innocent of murder. It's okay to admit that. Yes, agreed. Aw, B. Turpin, thanks for the $10, said babysitting my granddaughter, my granddaughter in New York City and watching my favorite YT channel. We are glad that you are here with us. Thank you for the $10. Give your granddaughter a big hug for me. I wish I had Ruby out here with me right now, but it's too hot for her. We also lost our AC again. This is the second time this summer that we got hit with like extreme heat and our AC went out. So I'm hoping the HVAC guy was supposed to be here and that it's going to be fixed when I go in. Because when we got back from our 10-hour road trip yesterday, it was 90 degrees inside this house and it was very difficult to sleep, but we managed to do it. And here I am. Let's see. Nope, I'm not going to talk about Pam Smart for this whole show, but you don't have to stay if you don't want to hear about Pam Smart. Like, it's totally up to you, Casey. It's totally up to you. Okay, let's see. Rob, this is my family's humor too. I appreciate this. Rob said, when my dad died the next day, someone told me how sad they were that I lost him. And I instinctively replied, yeah, we even looked under the bed and between the couch cushions. Oh my God. Where can I find this hat? Where can I find this hat? Tycia, I think your name is. I have a Mooses Aren't Real hat you should get for Lindsay. Please email somethingsoffpod@gmail.com and let me know where I can get this hat or drop it in the chat. Please. I would love to get that hat for her. Nope, I'm actually not dismissing D-Cools. The difference between the KR coverage and the Pam Smart coverage and the closeness is how close you are, very close to Pam, and it feels like you are outright dismissing anything said against her. Absolutely not. I've sat the past 2 hours saying I completely agree that what she did was wrong. I have called her out on it myself. I have asked her a gazillion times, did you do this? Are you guilty of this? I have asked her hard questions. Why did you say this on the wiretaps? What does this come from? Why are you saying this? I am simply focusing on the constitutional arguments in this trial. I have said myself to Pam, and Pam has said to me, she feels guilty and she feels shame for what she did to Bill. And she wished she had never done it. And it's as if she pulled the trigger herself. And I couldn't agree more. So I don't, I mean, I guess, would you ask the question of Turtle Boy because he was so close to Karen? Would you say the same thing? That's my question to you. Oof, Mouse. Oof. I'm doing a golf clap for you, my friend. I'm doing a golf clap for this comment. I am here. I'm for it. I'm with you. Mal said, jumping in late, but for the record, I'm personally done with the fiction of neutral reporting or nonpartisan discussion. Would we want to be neutral and balanced talking about the rise of Shitler? I'm saying that because I don't want to get banned. No, I agree with you. Okay. Can we see a picture of Lindsay? She pops into the stream every once in a while. I'm hesitant. She has like a big fancy job. And I don't want to I appreciate you asking. I personally think she's gorgeous. She's beautiful. She's the most beautiful human I've ever met. She has the biggest heart of anybody I've ever met. And she does pop her little head in like right here every once in a while. So you might see her. If you go back to some of the other streams, you will see her. Just a couple days ago, she did. So go back, but I don't want to post a picture of her. I feel weird about that. Okay. How many years ago was it? 35. Yeah, it's about to be 36. August 1st will be 36 years. We're talking about the Pam Smart case. Okay. Mal's also said, I'm agreeing with you all day today, Mal's. Life without parole is barbaric, only appropriate in extreme cases, serial killers, etc. The inflation of extreme sentences is insane. Smart should be paroled. Anything else is societal vengefulness. You hit the nail on the head on that one, my friend. Okay. Let me skip down a little bit because I'm still whoa. She's like Texas. Gifted 10 somethings off memberships. That's friggin' amazing. You're amazing, beautiful. Thank you so much. I am so happy that we may have 15 extra people tonight at the cross roast. It's going to be awesome. And thank you so much. Please let us know if you got those memberships and don't forget to renew them. Aw, Annie. I've been a bonus mom for 22 years and now I'm a bonus grandma. Call me Yaya, the fun grandma. I love it. Yeah, I think I'm going to be the fun one. Like, I'm the one who was like, all right, kid, everyone's really scared to drive with you. I taught some of my younger cousins to drive. Let's go get in the car. I'm going to teach you how to parallel park. The other day, she almost hit a pole and I had to like talk her through backing up and going over a curb and everything was fine. And those things don't stress me out. I know they stress out all the other parents and I get it, but those things don't stress me out. One time, I'm going to tell this story. One time right after she was driving a gigantic vehicle that was her dad's, and she accidentally drove it into a place that had a very low overhead height, and she got this giant vehicle stuck inside of a structure. And she called me and I was like, I'll be right there. And I literally we just worked it out. I backed the car down the way that she came and I drove it out of there, but she was stuck and that poor kid was freaking the fuck out. And I just remember feeling so bad for her because if I had done that as a kid, I would have felt the same way. I would have been terrified that someone was going to punish me for doing something stupid. And my parents would have done really horrible things to me if I had done something like that. But she's a kid. Like, we do stupid things. Like, I've done things like that as an adult. And so I was really thankful that I had a moment to, oh man, why is this making me emotional? Sorry, you guys, I just got choked up. I had a moment to like be a parent where I said, yeah, you did something stupid. We all make mistakes. It's not a big deal. Look, it's fine. Which is not something I would have ever had from my parents. So just having that moment with her was like super important. So anyway, thanks for saying that, Annie. Okay. Hello. Moving on. Yeah. Who's trolling? I don't know who's trolling. D Cool says, I feel like I've been a little argumentative today, and I just want to say I appreciate you and think you are doing great work on the constitutional issues on Pam Smart case. I appreciate you saying that. D Cools, I understand we disagree on some things, and you always come with good faith arguments, and we're always able to argue it out and debate it, and there's never any hard feelings on my side, so keep it coming. Why do I'm not emphasizing Matthew Farwell was never charged with statutory rape. I guess I'm not sure why you emphasize Pamela Smart was never charged with SR. There's emphasizing it and there's stating facts. I am stating facts. You just stated a fact. Matthew Farwell was never charged with statutory rape. Neither was Pamela Smart. Though sometimes it feels like she has been put in prison for life without parole because she raped somebody. So I'm pointing it out as a fact. It's not something she was ever charged with, but it's the thing that people talk the most about in this case. They don't talk about Greg. They don't talk about the brutal murder of her husband in her own home, the husband that she walked in the door and found. They don't talk about the wiretaps as much. They don't talk about the witnesses, including the fact that if we want to talk about kids being used by people, how about the system putting 17, 16, 15-year-olds on the stand for all of the public to see, broadcast. If we want to protect these kids, we want to protect Bill, why did they splash his face all over the place? He should have had anonymity. So should Cecilia Pierce. None of them did. Like, these are facts. I'm not emphasizing. I am saying facts. I think you are hearing emphasis because it bothers you that I disagree with you on this. I don't disagree with you on this. That I'm debating you on this and the way we use our words. That might bother you, Jess, and you might be emphasizing it in your head. But I am not emphasizing it. I'm talking about facts. She was never charged with that, but that is what people focus on. Yeah, me too. It's been going on for a long time, Kylie, mother of ducks. I'm getting so worn out watching trials where the reasons they're convicted are not the charges they've been facing. Prosecution needs to tighten up and compromise verdicts shouldn't be allowed. Yeah. Okay. I defend everyone's right to disagree. I want it to be in good faith. We can debate all day long. Okay, let me just get through. I know we still have to talk about Lindsay Clancy. Creating through chaos. I tried to find Pam's trial online and I can't find the whole thing, just clips and certain testimony. Do you know where I can watch it in full? As far as I know, WMUR, Channel 9 in New Hampshire has it. They might have it on their YouTube. I'm not sure. I would check there first. J.G. Taylor, how do you know if you get a membership? You usually get a notification in your email or through your YouTube that you got one. And also your name turns green. Yeah, so for everybody in the chat, if you see these green names, that means that they're members. Okay. Oh, I love this. Another normal mom said, as soon as my daughter could touch the pedals, she was in the driver's seat. Yeah, that was me too. That was Lindsay too. Lindsay grew up on a farm. The first car she drove was a tractor. Great story, Aaron. My stepdad taught me to drive a stick at 20. I practiced all day and he said, drive me to dinner. I was rear-ended when I stalled. He said, I'll talk to your mother. Don't worry. Yeah, that would have been me. Mal said, we know the only reason Farwell was not charged with SR is that the cops are shielding him. I agree with that. We know that Smart got life without parole because women are punished on a different standard than men, Mal said. I also agree with that. I've done my research on that one too. Okay. Oh, thanks, Archie's mom. I watch all the streams, but I hardly comment during the streams. Just wanted to say I think Mel's great. Rebecca too, of course. Keep up the good work. We will try. Okay. I did it. I got through most of the chat. I'm sorry if I missed you. Let's see. I love local color. I remember this myself, Creating Through Chaos. Creating Through Chaos said in Winnicott High School, the Seabrook kids were considered the troublemakers because most of them were. They were almost segregated in that school and considered outcasts. My ex went there. Yeah, Seabrook and Hampton. I go over this in the podcast. I mentioned it when I talked when I did the live stream for 3 hours about Pam's case. Seabrook, Hampton. Yeah, we all thought of that as a rough area when we were kids, and that's where the boys went and they sold the coke, or they sold that's where the boys went after they murdered Greg, robbed the condo. They drove to Hampton. They all lived in Seabrook, and they drove to Hampton and sold what they'd stolen, most of what they'd stolen, so that they could get some coke. Okay. Can you have it expunged? I don't know what we're talking about here. Okay, guys, I want to talk about Lindsay Clancy. In order to do that, I have to take a pee break. So can you guys give me 10 minutes? 10 minutes? I'll be right back. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. I appreciate you. Let me put this banner up. That says 20 minutes. I just need 10 minutes. I've been on for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Okay, let me just create one. I'm going to come back at 11:23. Cool. Just need to grab something to drink, pee break, check in on the HVAC guys if they're here. I appreciate you all. Thanks for sticking around. Where is it? Show. Okay, be right back. Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, allegedly. I'm Smart.
Happy Monday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie. Happy gay summer, Mel.
Happy Hump Day, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm not humping anybody. I'm Rebecca Lavoie.
Happy Saturday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett. Oh, no.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and my mic is muted.
Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and that's Briscoe.
And welcome to Something's Off, a true crime podcast where we swat the haters aside with our astute takes and humor and joy. And
The joylessness
I don't
of
give a
those
fucking
people.
miss. Blah.
Hags.
You hear it first in the break in the story. One little crack and the whole thing gets wary. A witness swears but the timeline bends. A smile too smooth and the trail just ends. Mel Barrett says, hold up, look again. Rebecca Lavoie follows every thread. If it feels too neat, then it's not the truth. There's a shadow line running through the room. Something's off, something's off. You can feel it in the bones. Something's off, something's off. When the facts won't come home. Something's off, something's off. And the case won't stay in place. Something's off. We're the ones who chase.
This is
Pull it,
literally
Jimmy.
because it's 100. It's been happening for the past day.
Oh, dear God. Everywhere's a hot spot when Dr. Wolf was on the TV. Am I right? Everywhere's a hot spot when Dr. Wolf is on the TV. I'm sorry. This is very funny.
What are you laughing about?
Because you're just sitting there waiting for the video to start.
I was listening this whole time. You
Listening to what? You're not playing anything, and now you're frozen. God, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Let me text Mel. Let me call Mel real quick. I'm going to call Mel.
No, I'm not answering your call. I'm not doing it.
I don't think.
Why is it? Oh, Jesus.
Maybe go back on the Wi-Fi.
I am back on the Wi-Fi. Can you hear me now? Should we do the show now? Should we do the show now? Rebecca? Rebecca, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Internet. Hello.
Hello? Hello, worldwide interwebs. Can you hear me? Let's do this. I have to look at my phone over here.
We're going to go members only.
We're the ones who chase. Yeah, we're the ones who chase. Wait, did that witness just blink 3 times? Something's up. Something's up.
Hi, guys. Thanks for waiting around. The AC is fixed. Thank God. It was 90 degrees in here yesterday. I was like, maybe we should go to a hotel. We're not the only ones. The heat's been so bad here that like several of our kids' friends, they don't have AC. It's awful. But yeah, another $500, whatever it was, down the drain. Anyway, I'm out in the pot though. It doesn't really, the inside doesn't affect me out here. It's just kind of steamy out here right now. I'm really looking forward to the fall. I'll be honest with you. Okay, let's all take a deep breath. Let's collect ourselves. I'm going to drink some water. I get so grumpy when it's hot inside the house too, Ellie. Oh man, I was so grumpy yesterday. I was just like, I can't do this. Okay. One of the things I want to do is I want to talk about Lindsay Clancy, obviously. We're going to be here for like another hour. This is great. I went over the Lindsay Clancy case many months ago when I first heard about it. And we used to do this thing, and we'll probably continue doing it eventually, but where Rebecca and I, one of us would come with a case and we would tell the other one about it if they hadn't heard about it, and then we would discuss it. And the Lindsay Clancy case is one of the cases I brought to explain to Rebecca. I'm going to give you guys a very quick, let me get rid of this banner. Hold on. I'm going to give you guys a very quick cliff notes of this case. Why is this so big? That's better. Okay. I'm freezing. It's winter here. Where are you, Miss K? I'm in Arlington, Virginia. Just ran to the post office for my icebox from my icebox office building, and it's steamy. It's so steamy. Did you see though? Did you get Sam? Did you get those the torrential rains last night? It was so crazy. We had to have the windows open because the AC's out, and of course the window was open. Torrential rain basically flooded our living room. So let me tell you, it was fun coming back after driving for 10 hours to all this craziness. Okay. I'm going to give you this Cliff Notes version. Okay. I'm going to tell it to you from what I remember. I'm going to tell you all a campfire story. I may get a couple of details wrong. I will try not to, but it's going to be short anyway. There's not a whole lot to it. Lindsay Clancy was a mother of 3 young children, all under the ages of, I want to say 6. And she had her 2 children. She dealt with a little bit of postpartum depression throughout the first 2 pregnancies. The third one, though, her postpartum depression hit her really hard, hit her sideways. And if you're a mom, you may understand that if you've dealt with it before. There are 2 different diagnoses as far as postpartum is concerned. One is postpartum depression. The other is postpartum psychosis, which we're going to get into. It's very important to this case. Lindsay she was a nurse. So she understood how the medical industry worked. She understood how to talk about the issues that she was having. She talked about them early, and she talked about them often with her husband, with her prescribers, her practitioners. In all, over a several month period, Lindsay Clancy was prescribed and put on, I'm pulling this number out of my head. I want to say it was 12 or 13 different SSRI drugs or sleeping pills, what have you. One wouldn't work, and she would go to a doctor and say, this one's not working, I need to do something else. And they would prescribe her something else. They weren't taking into consideration how the drugs were interacting with one another. They weren't doing any kind of titration, which means, slowly coming down off of a drug. They were stopping the drug and starting a new one. She was very verbal about what she was experiencing. And what she was experiencing was unaliving ideation. And she was also experiencing hearing voices telling her that she needed to unalive herself as well as her children. And she was telling her husband about this. And they were seeing psychiatrists and therapists and prescribers and all these people. No one was taking her seriously. And she even checked herself into an inpatient program because she felt so strongly that she was going to harm herself or her children. And her husband was very supportive of her throughout this whole time. He was also an advocate for her. He would argue with the doctors. He would argue with the patient programs. He would argue with everybody like, this is not, whatever you're doing isn't working. She is struggling. She is, having unaliving ideation. She's not herself. She is a shell of a human being. She is not who she was. Something is wrong. Please help us. And to help them, they continued, her practitioners and prescribers continued to give her these drugs. And the inpatient program that she checked herself into kicked her out. They were like, yeah, you're fine. You're good. Everything's good. You can go home now. And she was like, I don't want to go home. And they were like, sorry, go ahead. You have to go home. After that, one day she was feeling pretty depressed, and having, some issues. She was talking about that, but she did spend the day with the kids. She went out. She, as far as I understand it, she made like a snowman in the yard with the kids. She took them to their regularly scheduled doctor's appointments. Evening time rolled around. She realized that she hadn't prepared anything for dinner and didn't have any plans. So she asked her husband to go out and pick up dinner at a restaurant that was 9 miles away. He shouldn't have been gone very long. And he would come back and they would have dinner and she would hopefully get through this day. However, while her husband was gone, the voices in her head got much louder than they had been. And she sadly went into, I believe, the basement and unalived her 3 children. And then went upstairs to the utmost floor and through herself out of a window. And there was, I think it was a 20-foot or so drop, and When her husband came home, he found her in the backyard. She was alive. She couldn't move, and he asked where the kids were, and she told him, and he found his children unalived, deceased. And so, the paramedics came, they took the children, they took her. Lindsay was paralyzed, I believe. I don't know if it was from the waist down or the neck down, but she is paralyzed in a wheelchair. And she was immediately indicted, charged with homicide, obviously. The issue here is that her husband, though obviously devastated and heartbroken, has been her biggest proponent. He has been petitioning to have her tried on an insanity case, and he doesn't think she should spend the rest of her life in prison, that she should be in a mental health facility. She was, as far as I understand it, post incident, she was diagnosed with postpartum psychosis, which sort of causes you to act on the horrible impulses you're having and the horrible voices you're hearing and everything that's going on inside of your head. So we are now going to trial. The state of Massachusetts, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, is bringing Lindsay Clancy to trial, and they want to try her for the unaliving of her 3 children. Her lawyers and her husband believe that shouldn't be happening. She admits to it, so it's not like she's denying it. There were no other circumstances where she was trying to get rid of somebody, or somebody was trying to get rid of her, or she was trying to get rid of her children so that she could get insurance money. None of that is the case. It is well documented that she was over medicated and was suffering postpartum psychosis, and that's what she did. So we are this week going into jury selection for this case, and there was a hearing. Dr. LaPosada, who you'll all remember from the Karen Reed trial, she was amazing. She is a queen. She is a stellar expert witness. She'll be testifying in this trial as well. From what I understand, the defense has asked for many, many, many witnesses from the medical field. They are not calling them experts. They are calling them witnesses. They want to take their testimony. The state is arguing that they are just trying to slip in expert witnesses, is the way I understand it. If you want to understand what's going on in this case, I would suggest, my opinion, is you should go watch Defense Diaries. Bob and Allie are covering this case, and they're doing a great job so far. And in fact, I wanted to play a little clip from Bob and Allie. And I want to play this clip because this is another case where people are really getting caught up in the fact that Lindsay Clancy unalived her children, which is the case. I will give that to you, but it is nuanced. And this is sort of like coming off the heels of the debates we were just having. This is another place where we have to look at mental health and how being overprescribed and not, no titration and all those things affects one's mental health. And there are a lot of people who are being very flippant about, well, she should have gone and done this. Well, why did she do this? Well, why didn't she tell somebody this? Why didn't she tell her husband she was going to do this? Because she was suffering postpartum psychosis, people. And I think that's really difficult for a lot of people. There may be a lot of mothers in the chat right now. I assume that I'm going to have some debates on my hands who just cannot see past a mother unaliving her children, which I understand, completely understand. However, I do think there is nuance to this case. I don't know how Rebecca feels. I think she knows that this is tragic, and I think she might be on the same page as me, but we'll talk about this at a later date to get more of an idea of where we stand. There's definitely going to be a debate, but I want to play this bit from Bob and Allie's stream that they did. I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before, about this hearing that happened in the Lindsay Clancy case. And I want to play, Bob goes on a rant. When I think of Bob and Allie, I think Bob is more like me. He gets very ranty and he gets very passionate and angry and he says what's on his mind. And Allie is like, okay, let's calm down for a second. Let's talk about the logistics. Let's talk about the facts. Let's talk about all this stuff. So I identify with my friend Bob, but I want to play this for you because I feel it's profound what Bob has to say. And so I think it's important. So let's play this really quickly. Let me know if you guys can hear it. Okay.
Just blame perimenopause
This
brain.
is no laughing matter.
But that's
All
what some people think of when they hear, postpartum depression. Oh, that's just somebody like, I'll blame postpartum depression. And that's what needs to get changed.
Well, I don't ever want to hear a man, like I was talking to you offline about it. Like I have no interest in hearing any man ever talk about postpartum depression ever at any point. They have no frame of reference. They have no experience with it. They have no business talking about it ever. They couldn't possibly know what it is. They couldn't possibly know what it feels like. So shut the fuck up.
To tell you the truth,
leave it to the women.
There's several women who haven't experienced that. I mean, I couldn't tell you. I can appreciate that women suffer it, but thank God, luckily, I've never had to experience it. So I really, it's almost as bad as a man. But all right, getting back to the
you menstruate, like you do things that I could never explain or understand. I mean, like you can speak on it. I can't.
Not often anymore.
Let's leave it at that. Let me.
You're a good man, Bob. You're a good man. So I just wanted to share that really quickly because he's got a great point, and it takes a lot of courage, I think, to be a man and to speak to other men that way and to remind them that they do not experience these things. And so they shouldn't have an opinion, basically, is my point. All right, so let me take a look really quickly at these comments. Ellie says there's also postpartum anxiety, which I didn't know was a thing until I had it. Yeah, I've heard about that too. I have not physically birthed children, so I can't. I did have horrific menstrual, situation, and my entire life from the time I was 8.5 until I was 49. I thankfully was able to get a hysterectomy last year, and it's changed my life, and I'm so happy. But it really affects you emotionally, mentally, physically. And it's something that men cannot understand. One of my favorite videos to watch on the interwebs is men who put on the period cramp simulators on their bodies. If you haven't seen them, oh my God, please go watch. They'll put it on like the lowest setting and they'll ask a guy just to do dishes or something like that. And he's literally like screaming in pain, doubled over, can't continue the task he's working on. And I'm like, this is what we do every single month of our lives. And sometimes we don't even recognize the pain anymore. So it's always funny to me, those videos. Go watch them. Kylie says, the medical system is broken when even medical professionals and their families can't adequately advocate for themselves before they lose the capacity to do so. Yeah, this is crazy to me. This case is crazy to me. I am so saddened by the passing, the unaliving of those 3 children, those 3 beautiful children. I think what makes me the saddest about it is that I know that Lindsay Clancy loved those children, that they were her life and her world, and she wouldn't have done this had she been in her quote unquote right mind. And I am so sad to think that our system, I've talked about this on the show. I just went through this a few weeks ago, just trying to get my medication when we switched insurance companies and the process I had to go through just to get one medication. But at the same time, SSRIs and the like are prescribed and like doled out without thought or consequence for how these drugs interact in our system. And here's a perfect example of it. And these people in the medical industry, I would say, if you haven't read it yet, go read the filing of the civil case that's happening alongside this Lindsay Clancy case. I believe it's her husband who is suing civilly. The doctors and the prescribers. And from what I hear, Rosemary Scapiccio is on it, and she's a queen. She's a star. And I hope that they're able to use some of the civil case alongside this criminal case, because it's really important to understand what really happened to Lindsay Clancy in this situation. Rachel says, I'm a few minutes back and I still laugh so hard at the technical difficulties segment. I'm glad you guys still laugh at it. I can't watch it anymore. But it was funny. And I love our new song. But anyway. Let's see. Miss K said, that's so dangerous. Yes, her levels were dropping and probably in high withdrawals. Yep. I know. So like I have an SSRI. I take sertraline. So it's like I don't know what it is, but it helps me quite a bit. I remember I had a moment where my brain was so rapid fire. This was 10 years ago. My brain was just like shooting off cylinders. Anxiety was crippling me. And I had never been on any medication for it. And my psychiatrist was finally like, okay, let's try this. And I can tell you that the first dose I took it felt to me like I was breathing for the first time. I am a proponent of people taking the medicine they need to deal with the mental health issues they might have. I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and these medicines really help me. But I can tell you this, the same way that I noticed my brain breathing and calming down and able to finally compartmentalize all the craziness that was going on. If I miss my dose, if I miss 2 weeks of it, if I miss a week of it, the agitation and the stress that I feel is palpable. And the idea that Lindsay was put on all of these meds and then just boom, taken off of one and put on another and boom, taken off of that and put on another. I know what that feels like to go cold turkey for a second, because I've in the past, I've been like, you know what? I think the drugs have helped me. I think I'm good. Let's see what happens if I don't take my dose for a few days. And I get a lot of shit done. I'll tell you that. Like I get manic. I get some shit done. But I also get so agitated and the anxiety just drowns me. And so I can't imagine what she was going through. And that's just one drug that I'm on and one drug that I went off of. So imagine being on 13 different medicines over the course of a few months and just being like pulled off of one and put on the next one. And then having postpartum depression and psychosis on top of that. I just, like, to me, my opinion right now is that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is doing another Karen Reed. They have decided that they want to try to get a win. They've decided to punish somebody, and they're going to go after it. And they don't really care. They're not caring. They don't care about the side effects of these meds. You know what they're focusing on in this case? They are focusing on the fact that here the facts of the matter are that Lindsay Clancy chose a restaurant that they say was farthest away from her house. They say that she premeditated this to get her husband out of the house and for him to be gone the longest time possible so that she could do what she needed to do. When in fact, the restaurant that was farthest away from her house was a 9-minute drive. So at most, he would be gone for a half an hour, maybe. And Lindsay is saying in her civil case that she chose a restaurant where she knew he wouldn't be gone very long because she didn't want to be alone. And they're saying, well, in that moment, she should have told her husband. And what they're doing is they're taking that one piece of information and they are going to do a full-blown trial to try to put this woman who deserves to be in a mental health facility for the rest of her life. They're going to try to put her in prison for the rest of her life in a wheelchair. And I don't agree with it. I'll just say that. Okay. Yeah, this is a great point, Kylie. Almost none of those medications actually had time to reach balance. Most of them require 4 to 6 weeks of erratic effect before reaching full potential improvement. Yep. She was failed on so many levels. I agree with you, Miss Priss. Oh my God, medical drug-induced psychosis, Miss K said. Yeah, something. And then, I mean, add the postpartum psychosis to it. We don't talk about and we don't understand well enough what postpartum depression and psychosis is, and that it's a real thing. I have known people very close to me who have dealt with it. There are people, there are other cases. The Andrea Yates case, I think, is It's something that a lot of people talk about. I don't want to go into depth on that case because I don't know enough of the details to talk about it intelligently. But from what I hear, she too was experiencing postpartum depression or psychosis. I'm not sure. I had an in-law at one point in my life who I was very close with, who had her first child. She was this like enigmatic presence, this beautiful, vivacious, happy, beautiful, kind, good, funny woman. And the second she had a child and she started having postpartum depression, I didn't recognize her anymore. She was a shell of a human being, just like Lindsay Clancy's husband said of Lindsay. And this woman would spend her entire day folding and refolding her baby's clothes and packing them in suitcases because she felt like she needed to ship her baby off to the baby's grandparents because she was not equipped to be a mother. She was contemplating unaliving herself. She was afraid to be around her own child because she didn't think she was good enough. And that is all a medical diagnosis. Postpartum depression, borderline psychosis. She got the meds she needed and it helped her. But if you don't have the right meds and you aren't treated properly, this is what happens. I wonder how often it happens, like how much more it happens and we just don't know about it, you know? Yeah, they have a medical malpractice case pending. Let's see. Jess says, need discussion about NGRI. Always a focus on whether you still know right from wrong, but other option is inability to comport your behavior to the law, which seems more the case here. I don't know anything about NGRI, so feel free to enlighten me. Okay. Rachel said she is a quadriplegic with some use of her upper extremities. The classification is for the number of extremities affected, not completely paralyzed, if anyone was wondering. Thanks for educating us. I was not sure. Teacup Kraken says, I'm sitting on the fence right now. I think a lot of people are. I think that's okay. You got to see the evidence. Shazza says, the civil complaint is something everyone looking at the criminal case should also read. I agree. Allie was on with Megyn Kelly last night. Oh, interesting. Megyn Kelly, she's a character. Yeah, I loved Bob's rant about this too, Jess. Let's see. Yeah. You guys are all so smart. Thanks for telling me about how this works. I honestly, like, there's some stuff I just don't understand. Like, so Miss K's comment, this is interesting. They wouldn't know because she was never off medication, stable and reduced properly of the range of drugs. Medically, no way they can know until they had her stabilized. Yeah. I mean, that makes total sense to me. Let's see. Kylie said, I really like their conversation about stipulating components of the charge to take the wind out of emotional manipulation from the state, i.e. that the kids were unalived by Lindsay's hand. Yeah. Yeah, I would really suggest, like, go and watch Bob and Allie's streams on this case. I'm hoping to cover it. We haven't made a plan yet, but the jury selection is happening this week. The trial's coming up. I may try to cover it whenever, and I'm sure Rebecca will join me when she can. But she does have that, giant day job that she has. So I'm going to try to cover it as much as I can because it's a fascinating case to me. And I think it's going to set precedent. And I think that's really important too. Rachel said, it's crazy to me how many medical professionals miss the underlying bipolar disorder. It's very obvious in hindsight, though has way worse stigma than depression. There is no right side here. I agree. There is no right side here. Yep. She fully admits that she did what she did. I know that she did what she did, but I also know I also know why she did what she did. And that is the gray area for me. Okay. Simna would like to know, to Becky and Horn. I understand that hormones are the cause, but how is the depression different? I think you're talking about the difference between regular depressive disorder and postpartum depression. If anybody in the chat can answer that, let us know. Teacup Kraken. I will tell you this. Teacup Kraken says, I may need a hysterectomy in the next few months. Hearing people talk positively about it helps. Do it. Honestly, like the second I was able to, I made a choice to do it. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to be having kids. I was 49. I wanted to have kids, but my previous marriage kind of fucked that up. I knew I wasn't going to be having kids, and I was sick of living the way that I was living, as far as the anxiety and depression and what it was doing to my body and all these things. I had laparoscopic, which means they go in with like the poles and they do it real quick. You don't have a giant scar. You have these little tiny like pinpoint scars, and the healing process, as soon as it was over and my meds were starting to wear off, I was like up and walking around and was like sprightly. I like high-fived my doctor and shit. But then I would say the next 3 or 4 days, I could barely move and I was in a lot of pain. So make sure you take your pain meds. Don't, take whatever you feel comfortable taking. I didn't take any kind of oxy. I just took regular like 800 ibuprofen. I did all the things they tell you to take, Colace and all that stuff. And then I would say it took me, I'm a tennis player. You guys know that of me. I play tennis 3 to 5 times a week. That was the hardest part for me. But I was able to play tennis again 2 months later. So I was fully capable, up and walking, no symptoms, not worrying about tearing any muscles or doing anything like that within a week or two. I was being gentle. I wasn't picking up heavy things, but within 2 months I was back on the court and playing at like a pretty high level. So don't be scared of it. If it's something that you want to have done because you need it, don't be scared of it. It's one of the best decisions that I've ever made as an adult woman. So. Oh, Archie, that's very sweet of you. Mel, have you ever done comedy? Because you are very funny. I appreciate that. I have. What I love is improv. I was in an improv troupe for a really long time. I absolutely love improv. I tried my hand at stand-up, wasn't so good at that because I have really bad stage fright, believe it or not. I'm one of those people that if I'm on a stage by myself and I'm having to either act or do something that is a character, I freeze. I lose my breath. If I'm on a stage and explaining something like what I'm doing with you guys right here, if I'm here talking about things that I know about and it's factual or it's nonfiction, I can do it all day long. I'll stand on like a TEDx stage. I will do an awards like acceptance. I'll do all of those things. But the second I stand on a stage and you ask me to act and I'm by myself, I lose my breath. I'm trying to change it. That's why I did stand up, because I was trying to change it, but I wasn't very good at stand up. I wish I was better. at stand up because I love it. Comedy has gotten me through so many things in my life. And I love comedians. I think they're very, they're geniuses, they're smart. I look at Jolene. Jolene is a goddamn genius. The way that she handles, I know she's done improv, I can tell because of the way that she just rolls. She's on, we're on right now. It's going to be 3 hours. She rolls with it. She's comedy for 3 hours, 4 hours long. You know what I mean? That's difficult to do, but especially when you're not on stage with somebody, you're doing it on your own. So I know she's done some improv and I know she's done stand-up because I've seen it, but she's so good at what she does. And I really appreciate her comedy. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, Rage Knitter. Yeah, if this is too hard for you guys, I get it. Don't feel like you need to stick around. Rebecca, before I told her about it, she was like, I don't know if I can deal with this. I'm like, I know. She decided to listen to it, and now I know she's like invested in the case, but it was really difficult for her to hear for the first time. So if this is something that you can't handle, I completely get it. Don't feel like you need to sit here and listen, obviously. Oh, I love this comment. Rachel said, teacup cracking. I woke up immediately feeling better from mine, like woke up smiling and saying, thank God. I was the same. My doctor came in and was like, yeah, everything was great. Everything was, and I was like, yeah. And I stood up and I like gave her a high five. Lindsay was like, you're a dumbass. You're high. Can you sit down, please? Let's see. Yeah. Kylie says, I still wonder if Lindsay and her husband were even able to follow the changes well enough to take the meds as prescribed. How many times were they accidentally mistaking meds because it was unclear? Yeah, I have the same questions. Okay, 9 miles. 9 miles. Yep, 9 miles is what this case is about as far as I see it. Carol said, there's no compassion from the state here. I agree with you totally, Mel. It's the new, I hit him, the 9 miles. Yep. Agree with that so much. Okay, so what I want to do, let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. A little behind, but prison forever, no. Mental health facility for a while, reasonable. D-Cool says. Agreed. Yeah, Jemmy, Grammy Jen. And I'm so sick of hearing about how she sent her husband away so she could be alone with the children. I think she was simply a tired mom who didn't have the energy to cook dinner. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Archie's mom said, I'm a lifelong fence sitter, LOL. I like to look at every argument on every side and trust nothing. It's exhausting. I get it. Meemaw, member for 3 months. Thanks for being a member. Hope to see you tonight. PP is the time of onset of the depression. Okay. Jess said, hey, this is true, but I kind of love that she has an old white guy attorney who really believes Lindsay may help some of the older, more reluctant jurors. I agree with that. Oh, speaking of my Lindsay, hello. Hi. You want to pop your head in for a sec? Well, because they asked me to post a picture of you, but I didn't feel comfortable doing that. So this is Lindsay. I don't remember who asked me, but here she is. Okay, I love you. Okay. Let's see. Teacup Kraken said, I've had a couple of C-sections, so that sounds pretty manageable. Totally manageable, especially if you've had C-sections. You are a goddess. Let's see. This is great. I love all of these like hysterectomy comments, and everyone's like, hey, it's fine. Everything's good. My hysterectomy was a breeze. My doctor did it vaginally, and it was pain-free. The pain I had for years was finally gone. Highly recommend. Same. Highly recommend. Rachel says, teacup, ooh, girl, hysterectomy is a cakewalk compared to C-section. You'll be tap dancing in a week. Yep. Same with me. I had the same thing, teacup. I had fibroids, and they really suck. Get it done. Get the hysterectomy. Member for a month, C. Morales. Happy Hump Day. Happy Hump Day back to you. I hope to see you tonight on the Cross Roast. Just a Girl from the Six is also a member for 3 months. Happy you are here. Please come watch Cross Roast tonight. We have a good time. Whoever asked, Guy Paul Moran, Queensville, Ontario. Oh, that was the case that you covered and you were on the right side of. Guy Paul Moran, Queensville, Ontario. Thanks for letting us know. Okay. Becky, as hard as it is, I'm invested. A deadly mental health episode like this commands our attention. Completely agree. And I think it's going to be precedent. Like, I think we're going to be looking at this case, and whatever happens in this case is going to be a big friggin' deal. Yep, Shaza, this sounds very similar to mine. My hysterectomy couldn't be done with the keyhole option. fibroids, kept my ovaries so I wasn't slammed into menopause. Recovery took a bit and totally worth it. I also kept my ovaries so that, although my menopause was kicking my ass a little bit, but I'm also on the hormone patch for that, so that's helping too. I will be here. Love the roast. Have gummies. I love it, Mima. I'll see you tonight. I love lesbians. Thanks, Lady Harlot. Let's go, lesbians. Yeah, tonight's going to be good, Lady Harlot. We're going to be, like I said, we're going over the police interrogations. I'm not going to tell you who it is yet, but we're going to either do Julie Albert, Chris Albert, or Courtney Proctor's interrogations. Should be good. Rebecca's going to be like sinking into her seat, cringing. Chloe, yes, I can remind you how she unalived the kids, and from what I understand, it was with an exercise band. Sadly, Massachusetts actions towards women and journalists are so disturbing. Tall Red Texas said, "Girl, let me tell you." Okay. So the only other thing I wanted to go over, we're going to do this really quickly. I just wanted to tell you what happened in the hearing tomorrow because they were arguing about witnesses. So let me grab my notes. So they had a motion in limine where the prosecution and defense they were fighting over expert witnesses. The prosecution was saying the state complained that the defense submitted a list of medical experts like ER doctors and pathologists at the absolute last minute, which is their right, leaving them no time to prepare or counter-examine. If they're good attorneys and they work for the state, they work for the Commonwealth, they can prepare themselves. The defense attorney Kevin Reddington, that's who is representing in the criminal case Lindsay Clancy. Kevin Reddington argued that these doctors, they're not meant to be a surprise attack. Instead, they are consultants helping them interpret complex medical records, which in this case, you're going to need it. The jury is going to need that. He argued he might not even call them to the stand, but he needs them on standby just in case the prosecution makes claims he needs to professionally counter in their opening arguments. The judge sided mostly, unfortunately, with the prosecution for now, excluding the late notice experts. However, he did leave the door open. So if the prosecution says something unexpected during the trial, the defense is allowed to ask the judge again to let their experts testify. So I think we're talking mostly about the opening. Reddington was trying to determine if, he basically was saying, like, what if they say something in their opening and I need to be able to combat that with, not expert testimony, but, witnesses, medical witnesses who are going to be able to break down these complex medical, situations and theories. And the judge is like, meh, well, then you can bring it up when you're there, basically. Let's see. Okay, so this is actually touching on what we were just talking about, the whole 9-minute thing. So to convict her of unaliving her children, the prosecution needs to prove she knew what she was doing. She was mentally aware of what she was doing, which I think that's a really hard bar for them in this case. The state is saying that on the day of the tragedy, Lindsay checked an online map to see how long it would take her husband to pick up takeout from a restaurant that was 9 minutes away. That's what we were just talking about. They're arguing that this proves she was capable of rational thought, time management, and planning, suggesting she intentionally sent her husband away so she could carry out the act. I don't believe that's the case, but that's what the Commonwealth is saying. The defense isn't saying that, they're not denying she committed the acts, which I've already said. They are pleading that there is a lack of criminal responsibility. The insanity defense is what they're going with here. They argue that Lindsay was suffering from severe postpartum psychosis, suffering from auditory hallucinations, a loud, demanding male voice in her head is the way she's described it, that was instructing her to harm the children and herself once her husband left the house. So they're saying that she checked the map not to clear the house for a murder, but because she was terrified of being left alone with her own intrusive thoughts and wanted to know exactly when her husband would be back. So that's what we were just talking about. And then, let's see. I mean, that's pretty much, it was a very short hearing. That's pretty much what they went over. There was also jury selection began yesterday, and I think that's going to take them a while. So in short, we're going into this trial. I'm going to try to cover it as much as I can. But this is it's kind of like a legal chess match right now between, and I will say this, I am really looking forward to Kevin Reddington. He is like no bullshit. And he's like the grandpa version of Alan Jackson. And I'm really excited about that. I agree. I don't remember who said it, but you said, like, I think it's actually going to be good for the jury to see an older white man who vehemently believes in his client's innocence, or not innocence, but that she's not guilty of premeditated unaliving. Tall Red Texas said, I had a robotic hysterectomy and never felt an ounce of pain. Yeah. Lady Harlot says, this seems like an open and shut case to me. They have so much proof that she was mentally unwell and she tried so hard to get help. It's such a tragedy. Completely agree. But again, like I have to wonder why the Commonwealth is pursuing this the way that they are. What is the motivation? What are they trying to gain from this? I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. Yeah, I've heard this. Reddington was Jen McCabe's lawyer, said she passed a polygraph. Great. I mean, I don't have a lot of faith in polygraphs, but I mean, they can't be used in a court of law. So, he is a really good attorney, Shaz. I agree. Okay, guys, I am going to wrap it up here. We've been on for a little over 3 hours, and I have to come back at 6 o'clock, and I need to go get my hair cut at 2 o'clock, and I need to deal with the audio from this, and I need to take notes on other things. So I have some stuff going on. I appreciate y'all so much. This was a great conversation today, and I appreciate the debate. I appreciate that you all can have good faith debates with nuanced topics. I appreciate the support. I appreciate, women supporting women, and I'm here for it. I love this. I love my audience, our audience, I should say. My audience today, but our audience always. And I do hope that you all will join us tonight. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be back tonight at 6 p.m. for Crossroads, which is members only. We started off open to everybody. So if you don't want to join us, you don't have to. But if you want to join us, you can become a member. And then on Thursday, we're going to actually break down Julie Albert's interviews with the Massachusetts State Police. And I hope you guys will join us. I appreciate all the tips he sent through today. Those tips helped so much. Like I said, I traveled for 20 hours over the course of the past 4 days, and equipment and coffee and food and showing up and being at the hearing and taking notes and doing the live tweeting and doing the streams. All the stuff that you do to financially support us is so helpful. I can't thank you enough. It means the world to me. And yeah, if you want to send an email, if you have cases you want us to look at, if you want to ask us a question or tell us something that you don't want to say in the chat, the email address is somethingsoffpod@gmail.com, and we welcome your emails, although it takes us a while to get back because we get overwhelmed. FYI. Go join the Facebook group. We have a private Facebook group where we have pretty good discussions there, although sometimes it gets a little bit meh. But it's a good place to debate if you want to do that kind of thing. And obviously become a member if you want. We love you. We love our members. We think we have a great community. And don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, comment, share. It helps the algorithm. And you know how I love the algorithm. All right. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate y'all. Have the best day. I will see you back here at 6. Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, allegedly. I'm smart.
Happy Monday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie. Happy gay summer, Mel.
Happy Hump Day, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm not humping anybody. I'm Rebecca Lavoie.
Happy Saturday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett. Oh, no.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and my mic is muted.
Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and that's Briscoe.
And welcome to Something's Off, a true crime podcast where we swat the haters aside with our astute takes and humor and joy joy,
Oh,
and
the joylessness
I don't
of
give a
those
fucking
people.
miss. Blah.
Hags.
You hear it first in the break in the story. One little crack and the whole thing gets wary. A witness swears but the timeline bends. A smile too smooth and the trail just ends. Mel Barrett says, hold up, look again. Rebecca Lavoie follows every thread. If it feels too neat, then it's not the truth. There's a shadow line running through the room. Something's off, something's off. You can feel it in the bones. Something's off, something's off. When the facts won't come home. Something's off, something's off. And the case won't stay in place. Something's off. We're the ones who chase.
This is
Pull it,
literally
Jimmy.
because it's 100. It's been happening for the past day.
Oh, dear God. Everywhere's a hot spot when Dr. Wolf is on the TV. Am I right? Everywhere's a hot spot when Dr. Wolf is on the TV. I'm sorry. This is very funny.
What are you laughing about?
Because you're just sitting there waiting for the video to start.
I was listening this whole time. You
listening to what? You're not playing anything, and now you're frozen. God, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Let me text Mel. Let me call Mel real quick. I'm gonna call Mel.
No, I'm not answering your call. I'm not doing it.
I don't think.
Why is it? Oh, Jesus.
Maybe go back on the Wi-Fi.
I am back on the Wi-Fi. Can you hear me now? Can we do the show now? Should we do the show now? Rebecca? Rebecca, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Internet. Hello.
Hello? Hello, worldwide interwebs. Can you hear me? Let's do this. I have to look at my phone over here.
We're gonna go members only.
Something's off. We're the ones who chase. Yeah, we're the ones who chase. Wait, did that witness just blink 3 times? Something's off.